Hey everyone, if you're enjoying these audiobooks and want to support the channel, you can join my Patreon. It really helps me keep creating more content, and you'll also get access to some exclusive perks. The link is in the description if you'd like to check it out. Chapter 1, A New Life on a Cold Night. Deviated cultivation, meridians damaged. Leah lay on the narrow bed, indeed taking quite a while to reluctantly accept his current predicament. After all, there was no use in not accepting it. Could he die again to see if he could transmigrate back? That's right, after gaining the memories, he knew he had transmigrated into the cultivation realm, where great cultivators could move mountains and fill seas, a realm where flying swords roamed the heavens and earth. The original owner was a loose cultivator in Huia marketplace. Because the spirit plants he painstakingly acquired were about to wither, combined with excessive mental strain, he made a mistake while operating his cultivation technique and damaged his meridians. After struggling for several days, he still died. Based on the residual memories, he now had to face not only a home with rent due soon but also a body riddled with problems. This is truly a nightmare start. Can't there be something easier? Cough, cough, cough. He barely propped up his body, endured the pain within, got out of bed, went to the cabinet, opened the door, and took out a storage pouch embroidered with floral patterns. There's actually an ancestral storage pouch in the lowest level. How strange. Leah was somewhat curious, but the pain was truly unbearable, so he quickly used his divine sense to explore it. Inside, there was enough space for about half a room, scattered with the original owner's belongings: 5 spirit stones, a first-tier lower-grade magical artifact, and a bottle of pills. His divine sense immediately focused on the pills. This should be the nourishing essence pill. He couldn't wait and immediately took out the pill, a dragon eye-sized one, and swallowed it without thinking. The pill was somewhat bitter, though it melted upon entering the mouth. It felt like there were some impurities, like sand, spreading in his mouth. This was the quality of low-tier pills, unavoidable. It seemed to be something the original owner acquired before coming to Huia marketplace. However, the medicinal effect was not bad. After consuming it, the warm spiritual chi nourished his damaged meridians. Although there was no substantial repairing effect, it was quite comfortable nonetheless. Phew. He let out a long breath, pushed open the wooden door, and stepped into the courtyard. The cold wind of the winter night instantly howled past, revealing a small courtyard under the bright moonlight, roughly 2 acres in size, with neatly arranged plants buried in snow, making it hard to tell what they were. Quite nice looking. At the very center of the field, there was a well, around which was planted a small circle of withering silver grass. That was the culprit that caused the original owner to damage his meridians while operating his cultivation technique. Leah blinked. A phantom light curtain suddenly appeared in front of him, square, yet the edges were suffused with 5-colored shimmering light. Name: Silver Moon Grass. Mood: depressed. Status: vitality insufficient, about to wither. Can bind: spirit beast with abundant fire attribute vitality. The content on the panel was simple, readable at a glance, yet it made his eyes gradually light up. Golden finger? This must be his golden finger? Cough, cough, cough. Joy surged in his heart, making him couldn't help but cough a few more times. These silver moon grasses were very special spirit plants, obtained only after the original owner put in a lot of effort to barely get 5. Once they mature, they could gather the power of the great yin of moonlight, condensing into the main material for making moonlight dew, the moon liquid pearl. Each moon liquid pearl could sell for about 20 spirit stones. More importantly, it was one of the entry assessments of a nearby great sect, the 4 Seasons sect. One could only proceed step by step to join that great sect. To obtain them, the original owner practically went bankrupt, pawning everything of value, leaving only an ancestral storage pouch and some spirit stones and pills, so seeing them wither made his mentality collapse, leading to deviated cultivation. From the original owner's limited cultivation knowledge, if he wanted to completely eradicate the meridian damage caused by deviated cultivation, it seemed he would really have to find a way to join that 4 Seasons sect. In other words, the silver moon grass was his only hope of turning the tables. He took a deep breath of the cool air of the moonlit night, suppressing all the unease and insecurity of suddenly arriving in such a strange world. Before transmigrating, from graduation to daily job interviews, he had forcibly corrected himself from being an introvert. Now it was finally useful. For survival. Leah clenched his fists, packed all his belongings, and then pushed the door to leave his small courtyard. At the moment of stepping out, an array rising from the ground immediately enveloped the courtyard tightly. This was the array of the Huia marketplace where he lived, belonging to the resident themselves while living there. Unless the token bound with their aura was held, the array's cover could not be removed. This point was highly appreciated and loved by cultivators. Other marketplaces directly enveloped you within with a grand array, while here, the array plate and array flag were handed to you, allowing you to set it up yourself. Even cultivators with very low cultivation had some pride in their hearts. This marketplace wisely gave some respect, gaining the support of many mid to low-tier cultivators, making the residences here even need to be scrambled for. As Leah thought while walking, he also found that this marketplace was indeed very clever. If it were him, spending money would be spending money anywhere, so he should indeed find a place that made him feel comfortable to live. There was no snow accumulation on the road. He walked for a while, braving the piercing cold wind, soon walking out of the residential area and arriving at the marketplace area. The cold wind around suddenly stopped. A bright road appeared in front of him, with roughly people-height red trees growing on either side, bearing large and small fruit-like lanterns. They emitted a warm light in the cold night, seemingly connecting to form an array, extending into a stretch of red brilliance. Not only did they illuminate here, but they also dispelled the cold of the winter night. Although not as hot as summer, it miraculously had the warmness of spring. The marketplace, illuminated by small lanterns, was bustling. Cultivators didn't care even though the time had long past midnight, still energetically strolling through the market. Leah felt a slight tingling on his skin, gently exhaled. For a cultivator with damaged meridians, the warmth of winter was exceedingly beautiful. With his body warm, his thoughts became active. I heard Huia Marketplace is the territory of the Four Seasons sect. This sect is adept at cultivating various spirit plants and rearing spirit beasts. Could these peculiar lantern trees also belong to the Four Seasons sect? He curiously glanced at those small trees, and the panel appeared as usual. Name, lantern tree. Mood, elated. Status, good. No binding? What are the conditions for binding? As soon as his doubt arose, a flash of insight crossed his mind, like enlightenment. It turned out to require being planted or reared by himself, at least belonging to his spirit plants or spirit beasts, to conduct binding symbiosis. Other spirit beasts or spirit plants, although would provide a prompt of what could be bound, could not be bound directly. In other words, the panel showing can bind something was to let him see, and consider whether to spend the cost to buy. Individual spirit beasts or spirit plants, if have binding needs, after mutual consent could also bind, but not as strong in effect as both having binding needs for symbiosis. Additionally, each binding requires different quantities of vital essence based on level and difficulty. The panel indicated he currently had only 20 points of vital essence. To acquire more, he would need to consume spirited fruit or the flesh of spirit beasts rich in vitality. He found this quite normal, and even without this restriction, he would still want to taste the delicacies only available in the cultivation realm. If farming couldn't let yourself eat, just to sell, what's the point? Chapter 2, Flint Fire Crystal Insect. He stood here in brief contemplation, then feeling relieved. Hope was right before him, the best arrangement indeed. So he slowly strolled into the marketplace, cautiously scrutinizing the goods sold by cultivators, much like a marketplace in the mortal world, primarily selling various spirit beasts and spirit plants, with a rare few selling cultivation techniques and magical treasures. It didn't seem very different from a flower and bird market, just that this group of cultivators strolling late at night seemed quite absurd. Spirit beasts with abundant vitality of fire attribute. He kept the explanation he had just seen in mind, but maybe he wasn't lucky. There were indeed some peculiar fire attribute spirit beasts here, like the flame spirit dog, candle-tailed mouse, redskin rabbit. But the prices were rather steep. He only had 5 spirit stones, which really felt inadequate. No choice there. Most of what's sold were the kind of spirit beasts beneficial to cultivators. No one would painstakingly raise a niche spirit beast to sell here. Clearly, finding a bargain was out of the question, but he did not feel discouraged, heading straight into Huia Marketplace's official store accompanied by a light creaking sound. What appeared before Leah was an exquisite hall approximately half an acre in size. The floor of the hall was laid with a kind of emerald green carpet that helped calm the mind, and farther stood separate little rooms for cultivators to transact quietly and privately. At first glance, the place resembled a pharmacy in the mortal world. After all, the products of spirit plants also needed to be preserved with strict techniques, or the medicinal effects might dissipate. There were indeed many parallels. He directly entered a small room, which inside had a counter, behind which there wasn't a shopkeeper or attendant, but a jade-like green vine grew. At its tip, there was a small white flower, seemingly looking at Leah like an eye. A voice came from somewhere, saying, "So it's you, kid, what are you looking to buy?" Leah blinked. This vine was said to be cultivated by the Four Seasons sect and had intelligence. Furthermore, it was sensitive to the aura of spirit beasts and plants. Only marketplaces belonging to the Four Seasons sect had it stationed. The original owner's silver moon grass was bought here. Name, young spiritual mechanism vine. Mood, joyful. State, well-rested. Well-rested? So even a vine needs sleep. He only looked for a moment, then respectfully said, "Senior, I am looking to buy some fire attribute." Mid-sentence, he suddenly thought of something and continued, "Fire attribute spiritual insects or spirit beasts." The spiritual mechanism vine was curious, "Are you buying them to eat or to raise? Last time you came here, you took Four Seasons sex spirit plant. How is it you're this weak so soon?" "Ah, careless operation of power. I think if there were fire attribute spirit pets with vitality, they might help me nourish my meridians." He did not hide it. Apparently, the other party already figured it out. Moreover, using the aura of spirit beasts and plants to nourish oneself was indeed a cultivation method. A spirit pet that could aid in personal cultivation was exceptionally valuable. "How many spirit stones do you have?" The spiritual mechanism vine was still quite concerned about those silver moon grass because it was an upper sex issued task, related to its assessment. 5. Leah answered. The spiritual mechanism vine clearly emitted an emotion of speechless. Leah could only chuckle sheepishly. "Senior vine, for the silver moon grass, I have truly exerted myself to the fullest. Honestly, no spare spirit stones remain." This was indeed true. Then, the spiritual mechanism vine sighed, "Then I only have one thing here for you. Saying this, it tapped the desk. Immediately a box appeared. Upon opening it revealed several translucent red small insects, about the width of a pinky finger, with a small red bud on their heads like a grass, scurrying inside the box at an exaggerated pace, in stark contrast to their round and chubby appearance. Upon opening the box, Leah felt a surge of heat rising. Around the panel, multicolored fragmented lights continued to flicker. Name, Flintfire Crystal Insect. Mood, irritated. State, yearning for a cold environment. Combined Yin attribute spirit plant. I've gotten them just like that? Is my luck really good? Leah felt quite amazed inwardly. Was his luck becoming favorable after crossing worlds? These spiritual insects arrived just today. The spiritual mechanism vine introduced. First-tier insects, they emit vitality during the winter, burrowing into the ground to become spirit plants in the summer, awaiting the next winter. The vitality they emit can be directly absorbed, considered decent healing insects, originally from the extreme cold regions of the Western Territory. Sounds good. Usually, situations like these involve a twist, Leah thought. These aren't cheap looking. Could it be that they're genuinely affordable? A twist? The tip of the spiritual mechanism vine gently stroked the little fellows scurrying around, unsurprisingly stating, however, these little fellows faced troublesome conditions during incubation. Most likely they won't survive until summer to transform into grass. Naturally, it's best to utilize them as they are. Normally, they'd cost 10 spirit stones each, but now 1 spirit stone each. Estimating the time, they should be enough to last until your silver moon grass matures, then you can return for more pills. But seeing your circumstances, fully healing might only happen by joining the Four Seasons sect. Cultivation is important, yet caution is needed. If one dies and the path disappears, all will be in vain. Having said that, it awaited Leah's response. Actually, the Four Seasons sect did care for lower-tier cultivators like Leah quite well, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to snatch the silver moon grass task without power or influence. But still, it depended on the young man's decision. Just a shame about these little fellows, wonder if they can find an owner. Leah keenly noticed the panel showing its mood had turned to sympathy not for him, but obviously for these spiritual insects. He pondered a bit, then solemnly said, Senior's kindness, of course, I cannot refuse. These spiritual insects can alleviate my pain. I will certainly care for them well. Just daring to ask Senior how to raise these spiritual insects, I really haven't seen such peculiar little creatures. Saying so, he extended a finger, cautiously intending to touch the spiritual insect. Unexpectedly, his finger had just moved closer when the rapidly scurrying insect halted, diligently raising its plump body, using the bud on its head to actively reach toward his fingertip. A warm aura flowed from the little bud of the Flintfire crystal insect, briefly warming his finger. Leah was slightly taken aback. The spiritual mechanism vine was somewhat surprised, its tone involuntarily softened. Rarely do they show such friendliness. A flash of spiritual light on the table revealed a jade scroll laid there. It gestured for Leah to take it. This jade scroll contains the method to raise Flintfire crystal insects. Take it back for thorough study. If there are any issues, feel free to come find me. This was the spiritual mechanism vine of the Four Seasons sect. Building a good relationship with it surely wouldn't be wrong. Rest assured, Senior, I will definitely take care of them well. Leah placed his soul 5 spirit stones on the table, then picked up the box and took his leave. The vine of the spiritual mechanism vine slightly swayed. It too had been such a poor specimen earlier, fortunate to find a good owner. Hopefully, these little fellows would also meet a nice owner. Chapter 3, Binding and Harvest. The hustle and bustle of the marketplace gradually faded away. Leah wrapped his thin robe tighter around himself and looked up at the icicles hanging from the eaves. The moonlight scattered over the icicles, emitting a faint blue glow. He gently exhaled a puff of white mist and pushed open the creaking wooden door. A wave of warmth surged from inside the house, instantly dispelling the chill from his body. Although cultivators are supposed to be impervious to the elements, that privilege is reserved for those with abundant vitality. Someone like him, with injured meridians, ultimately struggles to withstand the winter night's cold. Relying on sheer willpower to ward off the chill was proving difficult. Fortunately, the house had a warming system of underground dragon, though he had no idea what immortal technique was used within it. He simply threw the lit charcoal into the hearth, and before long, the entire house was warm and filled with a faint elegant fragrance. After taking a deep breath, Leah brought the Flintfire crystal insect to the silver moon grass in the courtyard. The insects in the box seemed to sense something and stopped moving. One of them arched its body, poking its tiny head out to curiously look around. Do you wish to bind the Flintfire crystal insect with silver moon grass? The binding will consume 20 points of vital essence. Just one plant costs 20 points? Leah's eyes widened. After the binding, his vital essence would be completely depleted. He still didn't know how difficult it was to acquire vital essence. If it was challenging to obtain, he could only focus on quality, unable to balance with quantity. After a brief consideration, he made a decision. Bind. With his choice, the rainbow-colored light on the panel flickered softly. Binding successful, Flintfire crystal insect silver moon grass. Once the binding was complete, a small Flintfire crystal insect suddenly leaped out of the box, sinking into the thick snow. It struggled to wriggle, carving a small path in the snow as it slowly crawled towards the silver moon grass. It happily wrapped itself around the silver moon grass, threads of heat rising from its body. The originally withered silver moon grass, upon absorbing this heat, its leaves gradually deepened in color, looking more vibrant and full of life. At the tip of a young silver bud, like a tiny moon, droplets of silver liquid seeped out thick and translucent, radiating a chilling silver light in the cold night. Is this moon liquid pearl? Seeing this, Leah quickly took out a teacup and carefully collected the liquid. It did not stick together, ultimately forming 3 drops, round like pearls, glimmering faintly in the teacup. Then, he looked at the flint fire crystal insect. It was dominantly coiled around a leaf of silver moon grass, soon falling into a deep sleep. Falling snowflakes gently settled on the leaves of the silver moon grass, as if covering it with a warm blanket. A yin attribute spirit plant and a yang attribute spiritual insect, supposedly incompatible, yet here they harmonized exceptionally, as if destined to be this way. A single binding revitalized 2 lives that were destined to perish, bestowing them with renewed vigor. In this serene snowy night, Leah watched them, a surge of indescribable emotion rising in his heart. He suddenly remembered an article he once read, describing a bird building a nest in a hanging orchid. The lush leaves of the orchid provided shelter for the small bird that flitted through them. Such a harmonious scene filled him with immense comfort, even a trace of envy. Sigh. Before the crossing indeed. Even though he had mentally prepared himself, when memories resurfaced, he couldn't help but feel somewhat melancholic. Thankfully, after a momentary sigh, he quickly adjusted his mood, bringing his focus back to reality. Unable to change it, he might as well live happily in the present. He glanced at the remaining flint fire crystal insects and silver moon grass, and a daring thought suddenly sprang to his mind. Should I try it? However, when he attempted to place the flint fire crystal insect next to the silver moon grass without binding, the insect crashed around recklessly, nearly toppling the silver moon grass. Seeing this, Leah hurriedly removed it, not daring to make any more reckless attempts. Seems like there's only one plant, after all. Moreover, there's not even an introduction for this binding. Do I really have to figure it out myself? This golden finger is way too unintelligent. He muttered a few complaints but found no changes, so it seemed it really was just unintelligent. But perhaps that was for the better. In his view, the golden finger was merely a tool, something to slowly figure out over time. The binding was already complete, and the cold wind outside was still biting. Taking one last look at the vibrant silver moon grass, he returned inside with the teacup. The silver beads in the teacup emanated a strange aura, as if urging him to enjoy them as soon as possible. Moon liquid pearl. According to the original owner's memory, the liquid from these spirit plants was the main ingredient for crafting certain pills. Moreover, it was the first ring task of the 4 Seasons sex entry assessment. Handing over 50 moon liquid pearls by the spring equinox marked task completion. Technically, a single silver moon grass should only produce 1 moon liquid pearl at once. Why are there 3 this time? The task jade scroll mentioned that moon liquid pearls can be consumed directly. Leah licked his lips. Shouldn't these moon liquid pearls also contain vital essence? He was extremely curious about spirit plant products in the cultivation realm and, combined with his currently weak state, was in desperate need of spiritual power supplementation. Thus, he did not hesitate much and carefully picked up a moon liquid pearl. It felt much like pearls in milk tea, but it melted as soon as it touched the mouth, with tender streams of slightly sweet liquid sliding down the throat, into the stomach. Then it released a cool sensation, as refreshing as drinking a glass of ice water on a summer day. Soon, this aura automatically flowed into his meridians, briefly suppressing the pain from the damaged meridians and increasing the spiritual power within him. Just a single moon liquid pearl provided a spiritual power boost equivalent to a month's worth of meditative cultivation? Leah was momentarily stunned, but upon further thought, it seemed logical. After all, this was his golden finger. If it couldn't even solve the current dilemma, he would probably have to consider how to travel back. Compared to those who traveled into ancestors, Mahayana stage cultivators, or whose cultivation advanced rapidly, his golden finger seemed rather unremarkable. However, the most pressing question now was, how quickly could these moon liquid pearls be produced? Would they continue to mature every 3 days, producing 1 each time? Would their effect remain this significant? And how much had his vital essence increased? On this thought, an idea flashed in his mind. 5. A number appeared in his mind. A single moon liquid pearl only increased 5 points of vital essence? If this was a one-time product, consuming 20 points per binding while each moon liquid pearl only provided 5 points, it would certainly be a loss. Fortunately, they could be continuously produced. And since consuming them yields benefits, eating should work too, right? Just make sure to get better materials. He looked at the 2 remaining silver beads in the teacup and casually covered it with a tea lid. While self-grown spirit plants were his rightful enjoyment, it was best to reserve some stock. After properly storing the teacup, he lay back in bed, covering himself with a thin but warm blanket. The sound of burning charcoal crackled from afar. Listening to it was indeed quite reassuring. Before falling asleep, he suddenly found some advantages to crossing over previously needing to rely on a phone for white noise. Now he could listen to it directly. Perhaps this was how you find peace, adapting to circumstances. He soon fell into a deep, dreamless slumber until morning. Chapter 4, Automatically Operating Cultivation Technique. The next day, Leah groggily opened his eyes and instinctively reached for the pillow beside him, but all he felt was the flint fire crystal insect placed in the box. The crystal insects, which were originally huddled together sleeping, were startled and immediately emitted a burning heat. Hiss. Leah retracted his hand from the burn, and his sleepiness instantly vanished. You little fellows. Though he was burned, his first concern was whether the flint fire crystal insects were hurt. Seeing them safe and sound, he breathed a sigh of relief. I wonder what time it is now. Unable to accurately judge the time, he had no choice but to get up. Opening the window, the snow outside was even heavier than last night, rendering the world a vast expanse of white. Such heavy snow was a sight he had never seen in his past life. Last night's snow wasn't this heavy, but a good snow augurs a prosperous year. Perhaps it's a good omen. He stared at the snowy scene for a while before turning his gaze toward the silver moon grass by the well in the courtyard. One plant was particularly vibrant, with a plump flint fire crystal insect clutching its leaf, sleeping soundly. How come it looks more comfortable than I am? He couldn't help but chuckle, feeling much calmer inside. This little fellow is his foundation for living. If anything were to happen, it would be troublesome. Whew. After keeping the window open for a while, the cold air mixed with snowflakes drifted in. Leah shivered and hurriedly closed the window, going to the small door beside him to freshen up. The water source inside the house came from a spring that continued to flow even in winter. The spring water had no spiritual fluctuations, just ordinary warm water, yet it was exceptionally sweet. He circled around the spring for a while, murmuring, "This spring water seems purposely arranged for use." Is there a concept of tap water in the cultivation realm? Indeed, the original owner's memory retained some information about this house. After all, this is the world of cultivation, naturally possessing some convenient arrays and magical artifacts. For instance, the clear spring water in front of him that constantly flows, the stove igniting at the touch of a button, the mechanical mice outside automatically clearing snow, and even a mechanism box that delivers goods upon inputting desired items. Quite interesting. Finished washing, he went into the courtyard and picked up the mechanical mouse in the corner, gently pressing a button. The tiny wooden mouse immediately started clearing the snow in the yard. Its speed was extremely fast, traversing the snow enough to bury itself, the snow melting at a visibly rapid pace from the hot wind it emitted, then flowing into the pool beside through a waterway. The courtyard was not entirely farmland, with the center having about an acre used for planting, while the rest was paved with bluestone slabs, featuring well-designed hidden waterway channels that would not accumulate water. Within moments, the snow outside the farmland was cleared, leaving only a thick layer of white snow covering the farmland. Leah's gaze swept over the farmland, drawn to the vegetables planted within. Cabbage. He had just transmigrated yesterday and hadn't paid attention to what was planted in the field. Only now did he realize, it was all cabbages. The cabbage's outer skin was green with hints of white, as if it were translucent jade, standing neatly in the field, about a foot tall. Do they also eat cabbage over winter in the cultivation realm? His mouth twitched slightly, recalling how his family in his past life would stockpile large amounts of cabbage for winter, only stopping once shopping became convenient. Unexpectedly, here, there were so many cabbages planted. Squeak squeak. At this moment, the mechanical mouse, having completed its task, returned to his feet, quietly sitting, seemingly a wooden toy statue. What a magical little thing. In such a short time, all the convenience objects he had seen piqued his curiosity. There was no shortage of cultivators who enjoyed researching and creating, and these magical artifacts were their masterpieces. Leah picked up the mechanical mouse, examining it, unexpectedly discovering the words Mo Family Mechanism Workshop on the underside of the mouse. Even its marketplace address was marked. This familiar writing reminded him of advertisements seen at bus and subway stations in his past life. So the cultivation world has marketing strategies too? He couldn't help but mumble inwardly, stroked the smooth body of the mouse, casually putting it back in the corner. Afterward, he approached to check on the silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insect. Just standing far from the window earlier, he hadn't noticed a tiny red bead surprisingly growing on top of the silver moon grass, only half the size of a moon liquid pearl. It was red and translucent, like solidified firelight, even releasing a fragrant heat in the cold snowy weather. Just by smelling it, Leah couldn't help but salivate. Wait, if it's mutated, has the little fellow also mutated? Leah's eyes lit up, bending down promptly to check on the flint fire crystal insect covered by the leaves. Sure enough, he found a silver sprout on its back, reflecting a cold metallic sheen in the winter snow light. The silver sprout replaced the previously underdeveloped red sprout, full of vitality. Recalling the jade scroll he reviewed last night, he pondered. Winter emits vitality, summer buries underground to grow grass and absorb vitality, waiting for winter to arrive. This is somewhat similar to cordyceps. They originally couldn't survive this winter, now they're repaired through symbiosis? Truly fascinating. With my help, you better produce well. Whether it was responding to Leah's voice or not, the silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insect slightly trembled. A rush of pure spiritual chi wafted over, carrying two entirely different sensations of coolness and warmth. Simultaneously, he vaguely felt a faint awareness from the spirit beasts and spirit plant, seemingly thanking him, and telling him the red bead wasn't fully matured, not to pick it. The mood displayed on the panel was also grateful. Leah instinctively absorbed this spiritual chi into his body, feeling a burst of relief instantly. The chi filtered by them was even more effective than ingesting pills? More marvelously, his cultivation technique 5 elements spirit ascension technique spontaneously started operating. Like a water wheel suddenly hit by flowing water, it spun rapidly, completing a cycle in just a few breaths. The injuries inside his body were soothed by this breath, though it remained without substantive healing effects. He was somewhat taken aback. This cultivation technique hails from the powerful and mysterious Four Seasons sect, issued to 5 spirit roots cultivators as a standardized technique, renowned for being ordinary. Why does this happen? He noted this in his mind, planning to inquire in a safe manner if the opportunity arises. Though he didn't understand, he was still quite pleased. The spiritual qi filtered and purified by the spirit beasts and spirit plant was extremely pure, refining it now equates to roughly 10 days of hard cultivation. Currently, his cultivation is at the 3rd layer of qi refining, and with last night's moon liquid pearl and today's absorbed spiritual qi, he estimates he can soon reach the 4th layer. Most importantly, essentially he doesn't need to manually operate the cycle, it cultivates by itself. He gently sighed, deciding to find ways to acquire more of such spirit beasts and spirit plant, binding them to garner benefits. Whether it's vital essence or the gains and mana enhancement they bring, Leah desires them. He also wishes to see if all spirit beasts and spirit plant would yield spiritual qi for him. If true, it would indeed be a delightful matter. Wouldn't it mean he could increase his cultivation just by being idle? Thinking about it, he suddenly recalled something, asking Silver Moon Grass, "Can you produce 3 moon liquid pearls every 3 days?" Silver Moon Grass conveyed a very distinct affirmative consciousness, its leaves slightly trembled. It turned out to be true. Surely that magical panel is working, he vaguely can communicate with spirit plants? If production can continue, he should consider exchanging for more spirit stones for his profit. Yet, before heading out, it's necessary to review the spells the original body knows. It's not that he intends to fight upon going out but to possess some confidence in the cultivation world. He can opt not to initiate fights, just stay home to develop, but still needs means of dealing. However, just as he was about to practice spells, he suddenly felt a pang of hunger from his stomach, accompanied by a growl sound. He blinked and silently looked at the cabbages spread across the ground. Chapter 5, Glazed Snow Lotus. Half a shishin later, Leah casually cooked a pot of rice and stir-fried cabbage, and eagerly began to eat. Maybe it was the exquisite ingredients from the cultivation realm, but the rice tasted slightly sweet with just the right elasticity. Paired with cabbage stir-fried with just some salt and chili, he ate with great enjoyment, successfully calming his restless stomach. After finishing the meal, a number appeared in his mind, 0.1. This represented that this meal provided him with 0.1 points of vital essence. This made him quite happy. If eating could increase his vital essence, then it was truly a wonderful thing. He would gladly eat more to savor the cultivation realm's exquisite flavors. Little by little adds up. After satisfying his stomach, he leaned back by the window, listening to the sound of snowflakes gently falling outside, and began to review the spells he knew. In fact, there weren't many, including the basic dust removal technique, there were barely 15. He began to review them one by one, but when he cast the fire attribute spell Flame Light Finger, something unexpected happened. The flame at his fingertip took on a trace of the flint fire crystal insect's unique flint fire aura. The so-called flint fire was described in the jade scroll given by the spiritual mechanism vine as a special flame. Its origin could be traced back to mythical legends, though the flint fire of the flint fire crystal insect had very minimal power. Their only means of attack was to spit out flint fire, which had the magical effect of continual brightness, stability, and exorcism. With such a flame, one could even contend with ghosts 2 small levels higher than oneself. The flame at Li's fingertip was extremely stable. It carried a hint of gold. It burned gently, imparting a warm feeling. Through sensing his own spiritual power, he could vaguely feel the spiritual qi from the flint fire crystal insect at work. But if the spiritual qi was depleted, the flame would no longer bear the flint fire attribute. Flint fire. Could it be the Swyran clan I know? Before traveling to this world, he read some online novels and mythology stories out of boredom, but he didn't know if the Swyran clan referred to here was the same legendary being. Or is it also the power of the flint fire crystal insect? What changes will the power of the silver moon grass bring about on me? He didn't know much about the innate divine techniques of the silver moon grass, only that it could concentrate moon liquid pearls with the Taiyin attribute. Beyond that, the Four Seasons sect hadn't said much, leaving him truly uninformed. Thus, he reviewed the spells he currently knew, and surprisingly found a discovery with the light technique. The original light technique merely used spiritual power to briefly illuminate the surroundings. But now, after casting the light technique, a tiny silver sphere formed, emitting a gentle and cool pale silver glow, illuminating the ground as if sprinkled with silver frost. As for its effect, it couldn't be seen immediately. However, such a casting consumed a lot of spiritual power, and after barely glowing for a dozen or so breaths, the silver sphere slowly collapsed due to Li's lack of spiritual power. The sudden mutation of these 2 spells genuinely thrilled him. Regardless of their current utility, if all spells could mutate in the future, wouldn't it be akin to learning from spirit beasts and spirit plants? Spirit beasts and spirit plants were diverse, with many peculiar features. For cultivators, difficult to learn spells were innate abilities for them. Looks like I need to go out for a bit. Let's see if these moon liquid pearls can be exchanged for some rewards first. Though it's a periodic task, I might be able to hand them in one by one. Anyway, it's about time for a harvest. After a brief contemplation, he decisively got up, placed the teacup with the moon liquid pearls inside into his storage pouch, and then boldly ventured into the swirling snow, leaving the warmth of his home. Once more heading to the marketplace side. The marketplace was bustling with people during the day. The ground was free of snow, falling snowflakes melted upon contact, with the water likely flowing down pre-designed channels, leaving no puddles, quite dry indeed. Li's target was still the senior spiritual mechanism vine from last night. His luck wasn't bad. Arriving at yesterday's booth, the spiritual mechanism vine was half immersed in a liquid exuding spiritual chi. Seeing him approach, it slowly raised its body. "It's you again, lad. What brings you here this time?" It seemed there might be some joyful occasion since the panel showed that senior spiritual mechanism vine was in a joyous mood. "Senior." Li also wore a smile. "Look at this." He gently placed the teacup on the table and then uncovered it. Inside lay 2 smooth moon liquid pearls quietly at the bottom of the cup. "Oh, you're quite lucky, fellow. Seems you've cared for them well. A single plant producing 2. Seems like more moon liquid pearls will gradually manifest." After carefully inspecting the 2 moon liquid pearls, the spiritual mechanism vine appeared quite satisfied. Its voice bore evident appreciation, continuing, "According to the task, you need to submit 50 moon liquid pearls. 20 spirit stones will be rewarded per pearl. Our 4 Seasons sect never skimps on those with merit, especially since your moon liquid pearls are of excellent quality, among the best I've seen. I can give you an extra 5 spirit stones." It tapped the table, and immediately, a mechanism brought forth 50 spirit stones, floating outward. The crystalline spirit stones emitted abundant spiritual chi. 50 spirit stones? This was why the 4 Seasons sect's tasks were so coveted. Not only could one receive handsome rewards, but also connect with the 4 Seasons sect, a truly major sect, showcasing its financial power. It's said that continuing with the subsequent tasks could even yield tens of thousands or more spirit stones. Each step a filter, requiring capability to advance further. Tens of thousands of spirit stones were quite distant for him. He pondered that, if after some time, he completed the tasks all at once, wouldn't he find thousands of spirit stones in his pocket? Li's eyes instantly lit up, and he smiled. "Thank you, senior. No need for such formalities." The spiritual mechanism vine retracted half its body back into the spiritual liquid. "Though I have much confidence in you, the quality of future moon liquid pearls mustn't decline. Of course, I will continue to diligently care for them." After guaranteeing, Li inquired, "I wish to purchase some spirit plants rich in spiritual chi that are also consumable, preferably with a shorter growth period." He gazed steadily, not hiding his poverty, "But these are all the spirit stones I have. If possible, could you provide any defective or cheaper spirit plants?" "You're quite straightforward, lad. There are indeed spirit plants with shorter growth cycles." After brief contemplation, it suddenly said, "You don't mind the cold, do you? If not, I have a spirit plant I can offer you." With that, it retrieved a spirit plant in a glazed cup from under the counter. It was a lotus about the size of a palm, accompanied by lotus leaves, with roots buried in the snow, unusually transparent, as if carved from ice and snow. The panel promptly activated. Name, Glazed Snow Lotus. Mood, calm. Condition, will perish in a month. Bindable, energetic ice attribute avian spirit beasts. Chapter 6, Cold Ice Wheat and Wheat Pill. This plant belongs to the ice attribute, a first-tier spirit plant. It particularly loves the elusive cold and snowy atmosphere. If it is planted somewhere and left untouched for a long time, it will lack vitality. If you're not afraid of the cold, you can take it out for a walk. When it blooms, the seeds inside can be used as an excellent spiritual power food after removing the core, and consuming it with moon liquid pearl is beneficial to the body. Of course, it also has some drawbacks. It will die after a month. The price is 10 spirit stones. After Spirit Mechanism Vine finished speaking, it waited for Li's response. Li first thought that Senior Tang was indeed quite impressive, being able to sense he had consumed a moon liquid pearl. However, this coincided with his current thoughts. He needs to gradually reveal his ability to cultivate and nurture spirit plants, not too much but enough to distinguish himself from others, in order to pave the way for entering the 4 Seasons sect. After all, the injury within him has yet to heal. According to Spirit Mechanism Vine and the memories of the original owner, it seems only large sects have some pills that can heal. Even if a few are available, the price would be too high for him to bear. Being a loose cultivator is good, but resources are hard to acquire. Entering the 4 Seasons sect is indeed not easy, but as long as he proves his ability, there is always a way. Senior, Junior has some questions. Li inquired about several issues such as how much cold and snowy atmosphere the lotus flower needs to absorb, and what exactly constitutes taking it out for a walk, asking very detailed questions. Spirit Mechanism Vine answered them one by one. It was not opposed to such clarification. In fact, quite the opposite. It hopes that everyone could ask these detailed questions so that the spirit plants and spirit beasts could have a good place after being sold. Thank you, Senior, for the information. Li placed the 10 spirit stones that he had yet to warm on the table and then prepared to leave. Before leaving, Spirit Mechanism Vine suddenly spoke. The sect's disciples say that the snow will continue for about 15 days, and when the spring breeze blows, it will be time to prepare to plant spiritual grain. It's interesting, whether it's rice or wheat, the sect's disciples and masters love it, planting in spring and harvesting in autumn, just like that. Leah was slightly startled, then realized this was clearly a hint for his next task. Silver moon grass grows in the biting cold winter, absorbing winter's yin qi and moonlight to condense moon liquid pearl. Once spring arrives, there must be other spirit plants to be planted. With a smile, he looked back. Thank you, Senior. Junior also loves the food made of rice and wheat, but I wonder what Senior likes to eat. Me. Spirit Mechanism Vine seemed quite surprised. The rainwater from the thunderclaps in spring, breaking the biting cold winter's vitality water, awakening all things, that is the best taste. Not only me, many Taoist friends like me also feel the same. Junior understands. Leah nodded, noted it down, and then bid farewell. Spirit Mechanism Vine couldn't help but mumble, watching him leave. The intention is good, but how easy is it to collect rainwater from the thunderclaps in spring? If it can truly be collected. Thinking about its current authority, it felt that giving Leah a recommendation opportunity to enter the Four Seasons sect seemed reasonable. The master once said that cultivators should follow their heart unrestricted. Since it finds him pleasing and the kid is clever, it makes sense both emotionally and logically. Leaving the Four Seasons sex shop, Leah was carrying a huge fortune of 40 spirit stones, feeling quite wealthy. Having money, he thought of strolling through the market to see if he could gain anything. Compared to the flower and bird markets before his crossing, this place was certainly less noisy. Those who genuinely want to buy would either lower their voices or directly use divine sense to communicate. The sellers mostly had calm expressions. He strolls leisurely, first looking for any spirit plants related to spiritual grain and spirit rice, not just for tasks but also worth planting just for eating himself. The result was unexpected, not too few, but too many. Just a cursory glance found dozens of types of spiritual grain and spirit rice, among which rice and wheat are the most important two crops among the 5 grains, making them numerous under the Four Seasons sect's influence. What 5 elements: spirit rice, netherworld spirit wheat, mutated spirit wheat, harvest spirit wheat. The names all sound impressive, but they're actually just laced with death chi or at a fast growth rate. It makes sense. If truly magical or rare, why sell them in this market? Selling to official shops would definitely ensure a fair price. There might be good things here, but very few. He walked slowly. Suddenly, a nearby stall attracted his attention. There was a small cauldron on that side, inside which a robust-looking wheat was growing. The wheat spikes were very full and semi-transparent, and through the surface, you could see the turquoise wheat grains inside. Leah squinted his eyes, and his panel instantly came into effect. Name: Yellow Tier Lower Grade D-Class Cold Ice Wheat. Mood: Weary. Status: Already matured and nurturing wheat pill. Bindable: Any type of seed-bearing ice attribute spirit plant. Wheat pill. This indeed was unheard of. Feeling intrigued, he approached and asked the young stall owner wearing a Taoist robe, Yenke Daoyu, what is this spirit plant called? The young stall owner quickly replied, this spirit plant is cold ice wheat cultivated by my family, a first-tier spirit plant, originating from the upper sect of Four Seasons. It grows rapidly in ice and snow, with high yield, harvesting roughly every 5 days. Its wheat grains taste sweet and cold, and upon maturity, they explode to form flour, perfect for making pastries, quite delicious. Yenke Daoyu, buying this is definitely not a loss. Leah's expression remained unchanged, but he felt puzzled inside, seeing that he appeared unaware of wheat pill, unsure if he was deliberately hiding it or genuinely didn't know. Thinking, he leaned closer to the wheat, exclaiming, indeed, a pure ice attribute spirit plant, but it is still inferior to the spiritual chi of the pill I had a few days ago. The young stall owner's mouth twitched slightly. Yenke Daoyu, your words are amusing. How can a first-tier spirit plant compare with a spirit pill? If it were the legendary wheat pill, that would be different. He internally muttered sourly, what kind of rich person was this to compare a first-tier spirit plant with a spirit pill? Isn't he teasing me? Leah raised an eyebrow. I wouldn't have thought you'd also know about wheat pill. That condensation of vitality and spiritual chi is indeed rare and hard to find. Whether a spirit plant can produce pills probably depends on the condensation of vitality. He said this pretending to understand. The young cultivator nodded along, showing some sorrow on his face. My father once cultivated a wheat pill, and I've been following his methods yet haven't succeeded. If I could cultivate a wheat pill, it could not only replace grain avoidance pill for sale but also provide spiritual power close to that of pills with similar attributes. But unfortunately, he looked at the cold ice wheat he had painstakingly nurtured and sighed deeply. Yenke Daoyu, if you truly like these cold ice wheat, you can take 20 stalks for 1 spirit stone. This price was quite cheap indeed. Generally speaking, the price of first-tier spirit plants varies depending on their effects and rarity. Spirit rice and spirit grain, in high demand, are especially affordable. Leah got the information he wanted, and what's more, these even contained nurtured wheat pill. He used his panel to scan the spirit grain and grinned. Yenke Dao, you wouldn't mind me selecting, would you? Of course not. Thus, Leah unhesitatingly picked all those with wheat pill inside, a total of more than 30 stalks. Then, he thought, why not make it an even 40 and handed the cultivator 2 spirit stones. The other party was quite happy, especially giving him a book that included the simple methods of cultivating cold ice wheat. Leah was pretty pleased. Before leaving, he didn't forget to ask the cultivator about his stall time, just in case there were more wheat pills to grab in the future. After putting the cold ice wheat into the storage pouch, he felt great and continued to wander around the market. He wondered if he could find a suitable spiritual bird to bind with the cold ice snow lotus in one go, but perhaps buying the wheat pill had exhausted his luck, for after searching for quite a while, he found nothing, though he did buy an interesting insignificant magical artifact. Another Mo family mechanism workshop. It's a pity they aren't open, only bought outside. Otherwise, I'd definitely go in to broaden my horizons. On the way home, he rubbed the mirror he held in his hand. This mirror only needs to be placed somewhere, and the other side will show what's reflected inside, making it akin to a cultivation realm version of a surveillance camera. And it doesn't need wires to connect. It's wireless. However, the distance is quite limited, only a few hundred meters, coupled with the fact that it's easy to be detected by divine sense, and it only has visuals without sound. It makes for a curious item. After all, in the cultivation realm, casually installing surveillance would indeed allow others to trace back using the spiritual power fluctuations of the magical artifact. But for Liye, it's still quite useful. With this item, he could observe the spirit plants in the courtyard while inside the house, and quickly respond if anything happens. After returning home, he first entered the house to warm up, and took out the glazed snow lotus and cold ice wheat. Actually, he had been thinking earlier, the description of the cold ice wheat was combined with any spirit plant that can produce seeds. So, could this glazed snow lotus be possible? A lotus seed is a standard seed, isn't it? The problem is, with only a one-sided need, whether it can still be bound, and also if he could find a suitable spiritual bird in the future to bind with the glazed snow lotus. Let's try. But is my vital essence enough? He focused his spirit on the two different spirit plants, faintly able to feel the cold ice wheat's willingness to bind, but the glazed snow lotus emitted a sense of rejection. Requirement: consumes 30 points of vital essence. I see. Liye's eyes lit up. This binding was not successful, rather, it wasn't impossible. It means that if he could persuade the glazed snow lotus, he could proceed with the binding. It's quite odd, though. Is the glazed snow lotus considered a spirit beast? Isn't binding possible only between spirit plants and spirit beasts? Could it be that these spiritual grain are special? This failure didn't disappoint him. Instead, it confirmed his idea of being indeed effective. A golden finger is not such an inconvenient thing. Just have to explore its usage properly. The only issue is that this fellow is about to die in a month. He wonders if binding could solve the problem. He sighed, picked up the cold ice wheat, and went into the courtyard. According to the guidance from the young cultivator's book, the cold ice wheat needed to root in pure snow. This pure snow could be the snow falling from the sky, but it required very high environmental standards, because the snow would inevitably absorb quite a few things during its descent. Obviously, the snow here isn't good enough. Therefore, Liye could only find a way to make snow himself, which wasn't difficult. Just compress the water droplets with spiritual power and spray them into the air to directly form snow. However, his main concern was with the water used to make the snow. After thinking about it, he simply decided to try communicating with the cold ice wheat. Then set the water fetched from the well, filtered water, and water with added spirit stone dust on one side, and asked, "Which one do you prefer?" A long silence. Just when he thought these spirit plants had too poor spirituality to communicate, he faintly felt the consciousness fluctuation of the cold ice wheat. It pointed to the well water. To note, this well was the only spiritual chi source in the courtyard, and because of it, the monthly rent costs a whopping 20 spirit stones. Luckily, the original owner had just paid the rent not long ago when he arrived. With that, it's all sorted. Liye immediately took the well water outside to make snow, then carved out a section around the silver moon grass for the 40 cold ice wheat plants, and patiently began planting. He admitted to being a novice in planting, even after reading some books. Sometimes the depth or other controls are challenging to perfect. Yet, he could faintly sense the consciousness of these wheat plants. As long as they feel comfortable, then it's the most suitable. Anyway, adjustments can be made more frequently. Practice makes perfect. He doesn't believe that just because he can't now means he won't in the future. And so, he quickly planted those 40 cold ice wheat plants. Truthfully, the plantings weren't exactly orderly, and even the spacing between them was somewhat tight or loose, all skewed, tilted, with varying depths. However, it was precisely how they felt most comfortable, with even two of the plants exhibiting a consciousness of wanting to get close. After completing the planting, Liye checked them over. Their so-called wheat pill had yet to be gestated, apparently requiring some more time. When it's completed, he'd truly want to taste what this pill produced by the wheat will be like. Little fellows, grow diligently. He habitually whispered some words of encouragement to the cold ice wheat. After planting, he found a place to install the mirror, ensuring a clear view of the situation here, and then returned to the house, taking out the glazed snow lotus. Having stayed in a storage pouch capable of storing spirit plants and spirit beasts for a while, the glazed snow lotus exhibited some withered aura. But once it encountered the cold wind enveloped in snowflakes from the outside, it seemed to come alive, with the previously closed buds showing signs of blooming. However, as soon as Liye stopped, it immediately returned to withering. Was this flower teasing me? He glanced around. The cold wind continued to blow, and even being still felt chilly. How could randomly walking a few steps ever result in a differing cold ice snow condition? Based on the understanding from the spiritual mechanism vine earlier, this kind of spirit plant seems to dislike being rooted in one place for extended periods. Supposedly, its favorite is the dynamic snowfields of a snowy mountain. No need for movement to roam all around. He couldn't quite understand it, but given already bought, along with its lotus seeds being remarkably important. Thus, he could only keep moving, and during this, he constantly sensed the awareness fluctuations of the glazed snow lotus. The result was still unproductive. It seemed only to want to absorb so-called cold ice snow gas everywhere. After a while, Leah felt unable to endure the cold outside, placing the lotus bottle by the well before quickly retreating into the house. He brushed off the snow on himself and lay back on the bed, silently pondering the next steps. The things present already occupied his limited energy, trying for more would risk outweighing the benefits. So, for this period, he'd stay home, first dealing with the lotus and spiritual grain, recovering some vital essence so he could bind all the silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insects. When the quantity of moon liquid pearls produced by this batch of silver moon grass is sufficient, he'd approach the spiritual mechanism vine to hand in the tasks, meanwhile getting some magic texts, for the original owner had too few magic skills. And while considering this, he drifted deeply into sleep. As he slept until evening, upon waking, he glanced at the mirror hanging nearby and suddenly saw a rather eerie scene, instantly waking him up in shock. Thereing moonlight and consuming wheat pill. The wind and snow pause for the time being. The clouds disperse and the moon emerges, only to see the bright moonlight pour down from the sky, illuminating the white snow like flowing water, almost appearing as if it's in motion. Within the courtyard, the leaves of the silver moon grass are lifting the plump flint fire crystal insect, its silvery shoot top pointed towards the moonlight, reminiscent of the legendary monster's moon worship. The bright moonlight, the white snow, and the insect reaching up to receive the moonlight create an undeniably beautiful scene, which, if painted, would undoubtedly be considered an excellent work. But it's also quite strange. The wondrous power of nature's vitality is displayed before my eyes. It is at this moment that Leah finally has a substantial feeling he has arrived in a bizarrely colorful cultivation world, naturally with many mysterious oddities. Thankfully, these mysterious oddities are my own. Ah, what is this? Leah silently gazes through the mirror, suddenly noticing a difference in the moonlight around the silver moon grass, the moon-colored radiance especially bright, just as if a spotlight is illuminating it. Is this the silver moon grass's innate divine techniques? He recalls the scene when he performed the light technique yesterday, all related to light, making him suspect, perhaps his light technique needs to be performed under moonlight to be different? He indeed can't wait to try, but he doesn't go out directly. Now the silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insect are clearly undergoing some changes. If he goes out now, and affects it, the loss would be his own. So he plans to wait for a while. He walks to the window, murmuring to the clear night sky. During the day, the spiritual mechanism vine said that the snow would stop in about 15 days, and yet it stopped tonight. Is it that the weather forecast in the cultivation realm can sometimes be inaccurate? Time slowly passes in the waiting. After about the time it takes to sip a cup of tea, the flint fire crystal insect finally manages to wriggle off the leaves, bouncing down, and curls back into the leaf of the silver moon grass. The surrounding bright moonlight that was gathering gradually dissipates, returning to its normal scenery. Leah can clearly see at the top of the silver moon grass, there appear 3 round bead-like pearls, glowing with a silver sheen under the moonlight. Obviously, those are the moon liquid pearls. So, it's the flint fire crystal insect that expedited the gathering speed of the moon liquid pearls. I should go out and take a look. He opens the door and steps out, shivering from the sting of the cold night wind, quickly running to the front of the silver moon grass. Alas, his injured meridians indeed make his resistance somewhat weak. Leah first checks the grass and the insect, ensuring there are no issues before reaching out to pick the 3 moon liquid pearls, then performing the magic. Accompanied by an outburst of spiritual power. Then a miraculous scene unfolds. The ball formed by the light technique seems to absorb the surrounding radiance under the moonlight, gradually forming, then lightly falling to the ground, floating above the snow layer. Apparently not very heavy. Light-formed substance. Leah is quite surprised. He cautiously picks up the small ball. It feels slightly cool in his hand, and upon contact with his body temperature, it has a tendency to quickly melt. So this thing is essentially composed of an outer layer of water vapor, with the light wrapped inside, forming such a shape. Can moonlight be frozen and stored? He's somewhat moved. From the previous situation, it's apparent these silver moon grass need to absorb moonlight to undergo changes. Perhaps they have some method to store moonlight, hence affecting his light technique form. Can more be stored, to be used at another time? Perhaps even directly planted inside the house. Thinking this, he begins frequently performing the light technique, but unfortunately, the power from the silver moon grass within him has completely vanished. He only manages to make 10 of these ice balls, unable to create more. But with such rare good moonlight, he again communicates with the silver moon grass, obtaining some spiritual chi, finally making 20, which he stores inside an ice box, then collects the moon liquid pearls, leaving satisfied. He decides to drink the moon liquid pearls produced during this period, to expedite the binding process on one hand, and to enhance his strength on the other, since there's nothing particularly urgent he needs to purchase right now. Thus, time passes quickly. He spends several days accumulating 80 points of vital essence, binding all the silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insects. It seems perhaps due to the increased quantity, the spiritual chi they emit converges, almost occupying that small plot. These 5 silver moon grass can produce 15 moon liquid pearls daily. Compared to the unbound silver moon grass which only produce 1 pearl every 3 days, it's an immense difference, making the task easily completed. Is this the magical effect of binding? However, he does not directly submit the sufficient number but plans to do so slightly earlier than the predicted completion time. As for the excess moon liquid pearls, he naturally intends to make some food with the flour produced by the cold ice wheat and the lotus seeds from the glazed snow lotus. I wonder whether mixing these together would enhance the vitality force. Leah stands about 3 meters away from the cold ice wheat, observing the cold ice wheat that is nearing maturity. They are now abnormally swollen, the grains inside restricted within the ears of wheat. A few moments later, bang bang bang. The ears explode one after another, the grains directly shedding and turning into dust, instantly filling the area with white. Had the snow not been small now, it would likely mix with the snow, indiscernible from each other. Leah had long prepared, using a hand sign to perform magic, a gust of clear wind instantly wrapping the white flour into a prepared vat. What's this? At this time, he notices the flour contains small round beads, which have fallen into the vat. In the end, these 40 cold ice wheat produced half a pound of flour, and even more astonishingly, 30 wheat pills, quietly resting in the vat, as white as snow dust. This yield is truly terrifying. Just 40 plants can produce half a pound of flour? Wouldn't this mean there's no possibility of famine ever? He glances at the post-explosion, completely desolate wheat, picking up a bucket of well water to make some spirit-infused snow for them, then carrying the vat back to the house, washing his hands clean before picking up a round wheat pill. The wheat pills are indeed tiny, barely detectable without careful observation, seemingly tasteless, appearing like small white stones. Eating such things truly requires mental preparation. He hesitates for a moment before opening his mouth, cautiously eating one. It tastes slightly sweet, with a hint of flour's stickiness. It's not unpleasant. Upon eating it, he feels his stomach seemingly filled by something, with a surge of spiritual chi entering his body, completely absent the sensation of hunger. Simultaneously, a number 2 appears in his mind. This means that 1 pill can provide 2 points of vital essence. He smacks his lips. Not bad, spiritual chi truly rivals pills, plus the effect of satiation, if it can continuously produce, it does save a substantial amount on pill expenses. However, he looks at the lotus seeds, moon liquid pearls, and flour he's prepared, deep in thought. Originally planning to make a lotus seed cake, but now suddenly having a full stomach, perhaps he'll have to make it and eat it later. Chapter 9, A New Task and the Mysteries of the Cultivation Technique. Leah stayed home for a few days. As the deadline for the task approached, and the snow showed signs of gradually stopping, he looked at those silver moon grass and sighed softly. According to the task description, silver moon grass is a typical seasonal spiritual plant. After the start of spring, as everything revives, they will gradually stop producing moon liquid pearls until the next winter arrives. He wasn't sure what changes might occur and whether it would disrupt the stability of the flint fire crystal insect. The vitality-filled spiritual power these little creatures provided him daily was truly comforting, each time leaving him feeling as refreshed as if he'd just stepped out of a sauna. Change was not something he hoped to see. However, time flows and seasons change, and indeed there's nothing he can do about it. The only solution is the stash of pearls I've accumulated. Let's see if completing this task can get me an array to transplant the silver moon grass into. Oh well, I should first find Senior Tang for some advice. Meanwhile, I also need to resolve the issue with spiritual plants. It seems that the glazed snow lotus might not survive. Once the snow melts, finding birds with ice attributes will be troublesome. Mumbling to himself, he stood up, pocketed a box containing 50 moon liquid pearls and 2 other boxes each holding 10 pearls, and headed out again to the market. Senior Spirit Vine already knew about his silver moon grass's ability to produce extra moon liquid pearls. It would not be good to hold off the task submission too long, especially since he didn't know if too many submissions would impact the task evaluation. If it might affect the evaluation, he'd bring out the remaining 2 boxes as well. If it wouldn't, he needed to save some moon liquid pearls. Spirit stones can still be earned later, but the seasonal output of such spiritual plants is difficult to obtain after the season ends, so it's necessary to stockpile some. Soon he arrived at the Four Seasons sect store. But this time, Senior Spirit Vine seemed not in a good mood, the display panel showing angry, turning to annoyed only upon seeing Leah. It seems my face still has some charm here. At least it didn't shift to extraordinarily angry upon seeing me. You're here. How many moon liquid pearls have you gathered? Let me tell you, most completions of the moon liquid pearl task this time were not great, with poor quality. The sex alchemists just came to discuss with me. If you have extra, bring all of them out. I assure you won't be shortchanged. Leah blinked, then took out the 3 boxes, placing them neatly on the counter, the neatly arranged moon liquid pearls inside shimmering with a silvery glow under the light. Truly like small moons. I've given it my all and managed to collect this many. Take a look, Senior, see if they're satisfactory. His words were slightly guilty. It had been 10 days since his last visit, and including the days spent accumulating vital essence, he'd stockpiled nearly 100 pearls in total. Spring was still 3 days away, and he could probably collect a dozen or more. But Senior Spirit Vine was unaware of this. Seeing the 70 moon liquid pearls, it was momentarily stunned, its mood visibly improving, white little flowers on its vine blossoming to full bloom. Excellent, excellent, excellent. It praised repeatedly, truly impressive, including the 2 you gave last time, counting as 72 moon liquid pearls, taking second place in this task assessment. Let's calculate 30 spirit stones per pearl for you. Here, this makes 2,100 spirit stones, count them. Upon saying this, a heap of spirit stones suddenly appeared on the counter, exuding colorful spiritual light in all directions, making Leah swallow slightly. Obviously, Spirit Vine wanted to make a shocking statement. The pile of spirit stones could completely bury it. If the counter wasn't large enough, they wouldn't fit. Over 2,000 spirit stones? Just for completing a single task? No wonder the original owner had fiercely competed against others for it, and no wonder seeing the silver moon grass wither would cause a mental breakdown. I'll take them then. Leah quickly put all the spirit stones into his storage pouch, unable to hide the smile on his face. Senior Spirit Vine understood that a storage pouch, when collecting spirit stones, would ensure the owner knew precisely how many, but Leah's straightforwardness made it quite happy. Perhaps it found Leah pleasing to the eye. Everything seemed so agreeable. It said slowly, since you've completed the first part of the task, let me inform you of the second part. Leah nodded. Please go ahead, Senior, I'm all ears. The second part, like the first, involves our 4 seasons sex unique seasonal spiritual plants, lasting from the start of spring to the end of Gaia. As the saying goes, the people take food as heaven. The second part requires a kind of spiritual grain, specifically used to sustain our sex ordinary people and low-tier cultivators. Don't think it insignificant, many of our sex seniors and sisters cultivated on spiritual grain themselves. If grown well, joining the sect even without much success could at least secure a position as a spirit grain master, ensuring one's cultivation path is smooth. This task isn't bound by the number of spiritual grains, but the more, the better. Here, these are the spiritual grain seeds. A box full of spiritual grain seeds was placed before Leah. Inside, each seed was lush and vibrant, exuding abundant spiritual energy. One might think they were tiny pieces of jade. With a glance, the panel activated. Name, 4 seasons spiritual grain spring wheat. Mood, eager to sprout. State, excellent. There's no binding this time. He was slightly taken aback, then reconsidered that these seeds cultivated by the 4 Seasons sect likely had no defects, suggesting cultivation couldn't rely too much on shortcuts. Reaching out to collect the box, a thought occurred to him, and he feigned curiosity. Senior, I saw someone selling wheat pills in the market days ago. What's that about? Oh, Senior Spirit Vine replied offhandedly. Our elders believe that pills result from human effort using various materials and tools, yet the many spiritual plants conceive seeds. Aren't those also a form of pill? The natural power-conceived pill would undoubtedly be more special. The so-called wheat pill is essentially a spiritual grain, under special conditions, where the wheat embryo comes into contact with a special spiritual power or coincidence, forming something akin to a pill. Most spiritual grains serve as substitutes for grain avoidance pills, and those imbued by wheat's vital spiritual energy benefit the body too, though it depends on the type of spiritual grain. Take spring wheat, for instance, it burgeons with spring's vitality, complemented by continuous spring rain, veritably on par with a wood and water dual attribute spirit pill. Their price is exceedingly high, beyond what you can imagine. At this, it paused. If you manage to cultivate a spirit pill from spring wheat, I'll ensure our sex healer examines your injury. Leah laughed with wild joy. Thank you for your generosity, Senior. Then, somewhat bashingly, he scratched his head, but I still have one more question, if I may. Speak up. Having completed the task, Spirit Vine was in a particularly good mood and didn't mind offering some extra guidance. Its owner encouraged cultivating good karma, reasoning that should this boy succeed one day, it'd be a blessing all the same. Encouraged, Leah asked. The 5 elements spirit ascension technique I cultivate from the 4 seasons upper sect only goes to chi refining. Could I obtain the subsequent passages? Senior Spirit Vine gazed steadily at Leah for a moment. Perplexed, Leah seemed to wonder why it looked at him like that, but inwardly, he was a touch nervous. Though Spirit Vine's specific cultivation was unclear, its mere divine sense alone gave him a sense of being thoroughly observed. He stood motionless. Suddenly, Spirit Vine remarked meaningfully, the 5 elements spirit ascension technique is indeed an intriguing method. I recall there's an introductory assessment requiring cultivation to the 10th layer of chi refining, trusting in 5 different spirit plants or spirit beasts representing the 5 elements sincerely. For advancing the 5 elements spirit ascension technique to higher layers, this is indispensable. Hearing this, Leah immediately brightened with an excited beyond measure smile. Thank you for your generous guidance, Senior. Inside, he let a slight grin escape as he thought, as I suspected, this must be a unique point of this cultivation technique. I had believed it was the panel, but now it seems, it's safe to show off a little. Chapter 10, Second Task, Big Shopping Spree. A wisp of flame ignited at Leah's fingertips. Extremely stable, emitting a warm golden halo. The spiritual mechanism Vine nodded slightly upon seeing this firelight. You've already acquired your first fire attribute spiritual insect to fully entrust at the 4th layer of chi refining. I think you must have used some method to extend its life. Leah had already anticipated this in his heart. He could barely sense the other party's emotions due to a panel he had, and since there was no malice, he dared to show some of his extraordinary abilities. Are you willing to reveal this matter, fearing you are not uneasy? The small flower at the top of the spiritual mechanism vine slightly bloomed. I've seen many loose cultivators, all are cautious, as if every step is fraught with pitfalls and disasters. Caution is good, but being too cautious may also miss out on some opportunities. In this world, there are countless opportunities and encounters, and those who can cultivate to high positions all have fortuity, and your fortuity naturally belongs to you. Leah was slightly taken aback. The spiritual mechanism vine did not speak further. After a moment of consideration, it said, the flint fire crystal insects effectively restrains ghosts and evil spirits, but they don't have much spirituality. I have a task I want to give you. I wonder if you are willing to accept it. Leah finally breathed a sigh of relief and slightly cupped his hands. Of course, the junior is willing. The table in front of him made a clear creaking sound as if some mechanism was activated. A small box with golden talisman seals appeared before Leah, the Taiji 8 trigrams on top rotated, and the box slowly opened. A burst of black air with a foul smell emerged from inside. The smell was exceedingly strange. Leah felt a little uncomfortable as soon as he smelled it. The place he had been living was clean, with spirit plants and a spiritual well providing spiritual chi, making the air incredibly pleasant. He took a breath and looked inside the box. Inside the box was a small piece of forest white bone with a spectacular flower growing on it, whose petals were purple-red, contrasting sharply with the white bone. Name, hungry bone. Mood, resentment. State, craving food. Bindable, able to stockpile sufficient food spirit beast. This object comes from a region poisoned by a demon sect, where 1 million mortals perished due to the demon sect's means, resulting in famine and death, hence this demon flower grew on the land. The voice of the spiritual mechanism vine became very heavy. My 4 Seasons sect is an eminent righteous sect, naturally obliged to dispel these demon flowers born from resentment and free the souls trapped by the demon sect's evil magic. This task is not exclusive to you, each marketplace has tasks arranged. But whoever completes the task best has a higher evaluation and gets better rewards, and top-grade spiritual artifacts are also easily obtainable. Leah stared at the strange demon flower for a while, and asked curiously, then what counts as completion, and how is it considered well done? For most people, hardship ends only with death, but the demon sect's methods make hardship eternally endless, stretching indefinitely. Perhaps, only thorough death. But perhaps there's a better way. Try to find a solution for this flower and come to claim it from me afterward. After the spiritual mechanism vine finished saying this, it suddenly shifted the topic. How is the spiritual chi in your current residence? I remember when you first came to rent it only had a first-rate spiritual well. Now, would you like to add some more sources of spiritual chi? I'll make the decision and give it to you cheaper. Leah looked at the spiritual mechanism vine, which suddenly turned into the state of a shrewd merchant, and was speechless. But it was indeed necessary to add some sources of spiritual chi to his residence. With the increase of planted spiritual objects, the spiritual chi emitted by that spiritual well was already somewhat insufficient. Spiritual grain moreover was a big consumer of spiritual chi, necessary to prepare earlier. It's not easy to come out, might as well take care of everything. Senior, please teach me, how much spiritual chi is appropriate now when I'm planting spiritual grain and also nurturing some spirit beasts and other spirit plants? He politely inquired. The spiritual mechanism vine directly took out a jade tablet. Spiritual light fluctuated on that jade tablet, and after a moment, numerous spiritual objects capable of providing spiritual power, such as spiritual springs, spirit vein tributaries, spiritual wells, spirit trees appeared, ranging from the 1st tier to the 4th tier, all available. Leah's eyes slightly brightened as he looked at the jade tablet. This really seems like a Cultivation Realms tablet computer. This object is the Earth Vein Adjustment Array arranged by my 4 Seasons sect in Huia Marketplace, capable of freely increasing or decreasing the source of spiritual chi in a certain place. You only need to pay spirit stones rent, and now it can be added for you. According to your situation, I estimate 1 spiritual spring is sufficient. Upon seeing it, the price behind the 1st tier spiritual spring was 20 spirit stones per month. This price was equivalent to his current rental price for this small courtyard, and this small courtyard came with a 1st tier spiritual well? He was somewhat puzzled and thus voiced his doubt. Senior, this small courtyard originally costs 20 spirit stones a month. How come a 1st tier spiritual spring alone is 20? Adding up, now it would cost 40 spirit stones a month? With his meager chi refining, spending 40 spirit stones monthly to rent a residence would be extravagantly expensive. There had been a substantial influx of spirit stones, but still need to save where necessary. At least understand the reason. The spiritual mechanism vine replied, Earth vein arrays indeed require spirit stones to operate. If you are willing to move, finding a residence with 2 sources of spiritual chi would merely cost 30 spirit stones. Asking for 10 spirit stones from you truly isn't much. Moreover, hey, the spirit stones required for residences here compared to inside the sect are indeed much cheaper. Isn't this beneficial to loose cultivators? Otherwise, do you think each cultivator in Huia Marketplace wanting to rent needs evaluation, and why do you need assessment? The sect is providing you ladders for ascending the path. It became somewhat nostalgic towards the end within the sect. Even slightly capable spirit plant masters harvest tens of thousands of low-tier spirit stones per season. This cultivation realm is extremely prosperous. There are plenty of people needing various types of spiritual materials. Comparatively low-tier spirit stones are quite convenient for mining. Within the sect, they can even manufacture low-tier spiritual chi sources and low-tier spirit stones, hence it's so inexpensive, but high-tier ones are not the same. High-tier spirit stones are the actual trading currency for mid to high-tier cultivators. High-tier spiritual sources are valued even more highly. Who knows if this kid has real capability in the future, thinking of his current bargaining over mere dozens of low-tier spirit stones, what's that like? It somehow felt expectant. Leah suddenly had no more doubts, and took out 20 spirit stones and handed them to the spiritual mechanism vine. The latter took the spirit stones and continued asking, "Do you require anything else? Spirit beast, spirit plant, or magic spiritual artifacts? We have everything here." Listening to its tone, it seemed like it wants him to return what he had earned just earlier. Yet honestly, there were indeed needs. The junior still wants to buy some basic magic spells. Before he could finish speaking, a row of books like 5 Elements Techniques Chi Refining Stage, Agriculture and Taoist Technique, Spirit Beast Taming First Edition, Basic Talisman Collection, Common Small Techniques appeared before him. Leah simply pleaded for help to the end. The junior only learned some trivial magic spells. Could the senior give some suggestions? This time it turned out to be the spiritual mechanism vine that was speechless. It said quite reluctantly, "You sure have a knack for taking advantage. If I were you I would first learn this and this." It tapped 5 Elements Techniques Chi Refining Stage and Common Small Techniques, then stopped speaking. Leah directly nodded. How many spirit stones are these 2 books in total? Since the spiritual mechanism vine recommended it, he wouldn't have too many questions. He was now taking on its task, and it favored him greatly. Certainly wouldn't do something deliberately deceiving him of spirit stones. When someone recommends something, don't have too many doubts and distrust. 5 Elements Techniques costs 50 spirit stones, Common Small Techniques 70 spirit stones. The spiritual mechanism vine took the 120 spirit stones Leah handed over, and only then said leisurely, "You are currently at the chi refining stage, not formally stepping onto the cultivation path yet. Strive to improve your cultivation level. The marketplace is absolutely safe internally. Wasting too much energy cultivating a variety of magic spells would fall into a lower position. Wait until after foundation establishment you have extra energy to learn more spells then." The junior understands. Later, Leah also asked if there was any array that could preserve and isolate cold air, and the spiritual mechanism vine gave him an array flag worth 20 spirit stones. With this, Leah received 2,100 spirit stones here and spent 160. But the gains were considered quite full: magic spells, future tasks, even the improvement of the living environment. Being able to earn and spend, instead of just stockpiling. Why not use this to speed up his farming progress comfortably? Making suitable choices is necessary. Chapter 11, Inch-Sized Mountains and Rivers Box, Weichuan Beaver. Leaving the shop, Leah continued browsing the market. Speaking of it, it's definitely more convenient to just get everything at the Four Seasons sect shop at once, like the spirit plants that can bear seeds or spirit beasts that love hoarding food. But since I've made obvious repeated purchases of spirit plants and spirit beasts, it's getting a bit suspicious. Moreover, he also wanted to see if he could continue finding unexpected bargains. With winter almost over, the market now has various farming magical artifacts for sale, like an automatic plowing hoe, plow, breeding boxes, spray pots and stone tablets for maintaining water spiritual chi. From breeding to sowing and planting, you can find matching magical artifacts for the entire process, estimating that even a fool could manage a field using these artifacts. Leah was somewhat tempted to buy, but thought better of it. He only owned 2 acres of land now. Buying a huge pile of artifacts would be too extravagant. If he expanded later, it wouldn't be too late to buy them. He took a few steps and unexpectedly spotted the young cultivator selling cold ice wheat last time, who seemed even more distressed now. He glanced at the items the cultivator was selling and was instantly shocked. Name: Spring Thunder Wheat. Mood: expectant. Condition: unripe. Has a chance to nurture wheat pill. What kind of child of chi fortune is this? The cold ice wheat sold last time had wheat pill, and now this Spring Thunder Wheat also has a chance to nurture wheat pill. Could it be that there's an unknown method for cultivating wheat pill? He immediately stepped forward and greeted familiarly. Isn't this Taoist friend Joe? Selling wheat again? Last time, they had exchanged surnames. The young cultivator Joe, seeing Leah, wasn't particularly thrilled. Taoist friendly, I've switched to cultivating another type of wheat. If a lot of Spring Thunder wheat is planted, it can attract a flash of spring thunder. Upon shattering, it forms thunder flower. Would you like to buy some? Wasn't Taoist friend Joe selling cold ice wheat last time? Oh, that cold ice wheat is out of season now. With the change in seasons, naturally, one must plant new spirit plants according to the seasonal changes. These Spring Thunder wheat are obtained by my elders from the upper sect of the Four Seasons sect. Did Taoist friend manage to cultivate wheat pill? Of course not. Perhaps I truly have no talent and should just honestly sell the spiritual grain. So do you want these spiritual grains? He definitely wanted the Spring Thunder wheat that could nurture wheat pill, but this thing required quite a lot to attract Spring Thunder, and his mere 1.5 acres of land were truly too few. He regretfully shook his head. My place is small, really can't plant them in large quantities. Alas, I've displayed this spiritual grain for 2 days without selling. If you don't want it, I might as well take it back and wait for the other spiritual grains to mature for myself to eat. Cultivator Joe was very downcast. Hearing him say that, Leah simply replied mysteriously, all things have spirits, perhaps these spiritual grains you planted want to offer their essence to you. After speaking, he waved his hand and turned around to leave, carefree beyond measure. But truthfully, he did feel a bit heartache. He might have missed a bunch of wheat pills. And Cultivator Joe felt that perhaps Taoist friend Lee's words made some sense. After painstakingly cultivating the seeds and plants, yet not having tasted them once, it couldn't be sold either. Might as well take them back and eat them himself. If fate brings them together next time, he could give Taoist friendly some flour made from the wheat he cultivated to taste. Leah walked along the road, quickly letting go. Perhaps it truly couldn't be forced. In this world, there are always too many good things one can't obtain, losing them is fate, gaining them is luck. His attention was now drawn to a giant box displayed by a cultivator not far away. The box was about 20 feet long and 10 feet wide, sprawling over there. Inside was flowing spiritual spring water, soil piles, and some green plants, looking as if a stream and its accompanying landscape were clipped and placed inside. Even more amazing, there were some fat, baby hand-sized rounded beavers inside, gradually constructing their little dams, dividing the entire stream into patches. Name, Micro Spirit River Beaver. Mood, joyful. Condition, eager to share its food. Can bind, any kind of spirit plant desiring spirit power or nourishment. As Leah observed them, cultivators nearby were already conversing. That should be the Inch Mountain and River Mechanism box from Mo Family's mechanical workshop, right? Indeed, seems to be last year's River Stream Division edition. Can that box truly offer an absolutely comfortable and perfect environment for spirit beasts and spirit plants? The last sentence was asked by Leah. Upon his inquiry, the surrounding cultivators graciously imparted knowledge, or rather the cultivator enjoyed being in the spotlight. Mo Family's Inch Mountain and River Mechanism box was assembled with assistance from spirit plant masters of the Four Seasons upper sect. The spiritual chi environment inside can be custom set, no matter the spirit beast or spirit plant. As long as you pay the money for customization, you can definitely cultivate and raise it inside. Seeing more people gathering, the cultivator spoke further about the spirit beasts. These spirit beasts should be spirit objects nurtured by the micro spirit river within the Four Seasons upper sex mountain gates. From generations, they have been groomed by the upper sex mighty figures, most fond of sorting out water veins and cleaning up debris left by spirit beasts and spirit plants. If there are spiritual springs or spirit rivers in the yard, raising a few beavers saves you the trouble of cleaning up. Leah quietly queued among the crowd, feeling that this person might be a tout, expounding all the benefits of the mechanism box and micro spirit river beaver, truly a perfect tout. But much to his interest, he really did want to buy one of these boxes. Just like buying a micro landscape in his previous life, it would undoubtedly be very pleasing in the house, and also could nurture things inconvenient to raise in the yard. For example, silver moon grass. If he had such a box, it would indeed be very convenient. However, mingling in the crowd, he overheard that these items cost at least several hundred spirit stones, and more with custom demands, instantly lowering his spirits. Though he earned over 2,000 spirit stones, having just bought an array and not particularly needing this item, he thought to wait further. Thus, he smoothly queued to purchase 5 micro spirit river beavers. Unexpectedly, the price was quite cheap, merely 5 spirit stones per beaver. He thought such specific spirit beasts would be highly priced. Later, upon leaving, he heard in the crowd that these spirit beasts underwent certain magical treatments rendering them infertile. Meaning buying a few is exactly buying a few. Well, although a bit surprising, it was all rather expected. Cultivated spirit plants need special methods to bear seeds. These spirit beasts definitely do too, else buying a pair could be easily bred and sold, right? Clearly impossible. Chapter 12, awaiting the beginning of spring. When Leah pushed open the door and returned home with his plentiful harvest, he immediately noticed a clear spring water gushing out from the corner of the courtyard. Even as snowflakes gradually fell, it continued to flow outward, gradually soaking the surrounding ground, clearly indicating that this spring needed some planning from Leah. As he was about to put down the beavers and deal with the situation, the little beavers suddenly became restless, conveying a desire to go outside. He glanced at the spring water, then at the eager beavers, and suddenly understood, you want to handle that spring water. The beavers nodded in unison, their small beady eyes sparkling, as if it were a rare treasure. From their eyes, one could see their innocence, which was endearing. Then go ahead, I'm looking forward to you doing a good job. After Leah tilted the box, they hurriedly ran towards the spiritual spring gushing out, collecting some mud and fallen twigs and leaves from the plants in the courtyard along the way. As they approached the spiritual spring, they chirped as if exchanging a few words. Then, as if it was an instinct etched into their bodies, 2 beavers mixed mud, 1 beaver gnawed and cut branches, while the other 2 traversed the water, using the mud and branches to construct a small dam. The division of labor was quite perfect. Initially, the dam would be overturned by the flowing spring water, but after reinforcing it 2 or 3 times, the water obediently flowed through the gaps in the branches composing the dam, becoming very gentle. And even though the dam was made of mud and randomly picked fallen leaves, it somehow filtered the water flow, making the spring water that passed through noticeably clearer. It truly is a bit magical. He walked to the small dam, watching the beavers still busily digging soil to build their nests, and thought for a while before finding the most stable one and placing it in his palm. Then he took out that ominous hungry bone. The beaver curiously raised its head, looking at his other hand, its eyes filled with pure curiosity. Which means it was not repelled. Binding requires 100 points of vital essence. Fortunately, he had consumed quite a few spiritual objects lately and had taken moon liquid pearls every day. Unexpectedly, this binding required 100 points, while silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insect only needed 20 points. Bind. With a thought. A mysterious bond seemed to form between the hungry bone in his hand and the little beaver, the latter blinking its small beady eyes at the hungry bone, then immediately hugged it. Whether an illusion or not, Leah faintly felt that the hungry bone showed a hint of resistance, but was finally overcome by the beaver's enthusiasm. He placed them on the ground, and the Weichuan beaver laboriously dragged the bone, which was twice its size, towards its under-construction nest, apparently intending to place it inside the nest. In theory, the hungry bone exuding a resentful aura would feel prickly even to a cultivator holding it and could even influence them, yet miraculously, it didn't affect the beaver at all. No, there was still an effect. The other beavers gave the beaver carrying the hungry bone a separate space, not daring to approach, fearing contamination. But it seemed to enjoy it, content to be separated from its companions and live with the hungry bone. Leah observed them for a while, and after seeing no anomalies, he began directing the beavers' work. He needed the beavers to divert the spiritual spring water to the plot of land he was about to plant. After a brief guidance, he realized how astoundingly smart these little creatures were. With just a few suggestions, they understood accurately, tidying up the ground while busying themselves. They were quite lively. I should have bought a few more. I wonder if it's too late to go back and ask for some. Such extraordinary spirit beasts were indeed rare. With their help, he saved the effort of constantly watering and tending the courtyard. In the following days, Leah was busy preparing an environment suitable for silver moon grass to grow. For this, he even used spirit stones to replenish its spiritual chi, then used the spiritual chi it returned to make ice crystal beads. The grain was also soaked for breeding using certain methods, and the garden had been tilled, ready for sowing as soon as spring came. During this time, the glazed snow lotus withered after all. Because Leah didn't know if finding an ice attribute bird would save it, and with winter soon to pass into spring, where would there be room for it to frolic around with the bird? So he could only watch its petals gradually wither, its lotus leaves droop feebly, with only a single lotus seed remaining, quietly lying in the vessel that once held snow. He collected this lotus seed, planning to replant it in the winter. As for the cold ice wheat, he still couldn't understand why it was able to bind with spirit plants, but this did not deter him from trying to bind it with the newly obtained spring wheat. Unfortunately, only 30-some cold ice wheat had the demand to produce wheat pills and form bindings. He could only continue to bind with 30-plus wheat seedlings and carefully tend to them. Thus, he ate plenty of good food during these days to accumulate vital essence. Things like moon liquid pearls, stockpiled spiritual wheat flour, and occasionally buying spirit fruits from the marketplace, mixing them with spiritual spring water. Delicious, indeed, though the only issue was the lack of meat. But frankly, this golden finger was indeed excellent. He didn't need to do much, just eating accumulated enough vital essence, which he enjoyed tremendously. So, I'm already focusing on wellness at such a young age. In his leisure time, he would sit by the window with pastries and inexpensive spiritual tea on the table beside him, leisurely reading the 2 books he had bought. Now, he was holding Kimen Small Techniques. Inside were recorded some very practical and convenient small spells. For example, Leah extended his hand over the pastries in front of him, performing the object retrieval technique he had just learned. The piece of pastry wobbled, barely getting into the air, much like a bird just learning to fly, soaring up and down before finally landing in Leah's hand. He took a bite of the pastry, contentedly sighing. No wonder the spiritual mechanism vine recommended I buy this book. Even though the spells inside aren't as systematic as the 5 elements techniques, you really can't live comfortably without them. He finished the pastry in a few bites, looked at the crumbs on his clothes, and with a casual flick of his fingers a surge of invisible spiritual power instantly gathered all the dust and pastry crumbs together into a small pile. He casually used the object retrieval technique to toss them into the trash can. Then, he silently recited the calming spell, temporarily banishing distractions from his mind, patiently began to study more spells. And so, time passed slowly. Until one night, while he was sleeping, the sound of a gong suddenly resonated outside, accompanied by a resonant male voice echoing throughout the marketplace. Fellow cultivators, spring arrives with all things rejuvenated, and 4 Seasons sect has gifts for everyone. With the cycle of seasons, let's gather some good fortune. When Leah quickly climbed out of bed to look out the window, what he saw there left him slightly agape. As expected of the 4 Seasons sect, truly wealthy and imposing. Flint fire, spring rain like oil. The entire sky suddenly blossomed with fireworks. Bang, bang, bang. Those dazzling bursts of color bloomed like a garden of fireworks in the air. A variety of strange flowers blossomed in succession, illuminating the midnight sky, dispersing the heavy clouds, allowing the bright moonlight to shower the earth. Leah saw very clearly. Through the panel, he could discern the original form of those flowers. It was actually a spirit plant called the time-sharing fireworks tree, and its petals seemed to be activated by spiritual chi in the sky, forming this peculiar spectacle. Of course, the grander gestures were the gifts that fell with the fireworks. The stars that fell from the heavenly dome were clearly pills, surrounded by spiritual chi. By chance, one was plummeting directly towards here. Upon seeing this, Leah quickly picked up the array plate controlling the array, creating an opening. The pill immediately passed through the gap in the array, quietly falling to the ground. The beavers working diligently at night sensed the spiritual chi and immediately dropped their tasks, gathering around. Leah also stepped forward to pick up the pill. Just holding it, the rich fragrance of the pill penetrated straight into his nostrils. The scent made him feel vibrant, indescribably comfortable, even with a feeling of transcendence. Along with the pill, a small jade scroll also descended. Second-tier spirit pill, purifying spirit pill. The effect can continuously purify spiritual power impurities. Can be used to refine spiritual power to break through the foundation establishment stage. His breath felt heavier for a moment. Second-tier spirit pill, effective for breaking through to the foundation establishment stage. 4 Seasons sect just gave it away. Such wealth, truly generous. He muttered a few words to himself, quickly placing the spirit pill into the pill bottle he had already emptied, fastening the stopper tightly, and calmed down after a few deep breaths. After this harvest, he immediately decided not to go out. Even though there were other good pills, outside there would undoubtedly be competition among cultivators, and while the 4 Seasons sect didn't allow fighting within the marketplace, grudges could still form. Who knows if something will be triggered in the future because of this matter. Don't be greedy, don't desire too much. This is enough. Fireworks still bloomed in the heavenly dome, but Leah had already begun to busy himself, carefully relocating the silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insect into a small plot of land inside the house, enclosed by an array. During this process, he already felt the silver moon grass's weakness. Clearly, it was still lively yesterday, yet seemingly within a day's time, it began to weaken, its silver leaves drooping. The flint fire crystal insect also started showing signs of agitation. Don't worry, this is fine. He reassured the silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insect, carefully transplanting the former into soil dug from beside the spiritual spring, filling the surrounding area entirely with ice balls he had created. But as he comfortably settled the silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insect, they suddenly began releasing their own pure spiritual chi, the quantity so immense it seemed to squeeze every essence out of them. You are. Leah noticed on the panel their status transformed into preparing to hibernate in ice and snow. After gifting this spiritual chi to Leah, the flint fire crystal insect began digging, burying itself. The silver-white sprouts on their heads dropped one by one, and the long-awaited red moon liquid pearl of silver moon grass also began to gently drip down. Seeing this, Leah hastily collected all these items, then watched them slowly topple over, curling into a ball, their aura extremely faint now, but the vitality was significantly better than the previous near-death state. Even vaguely showed signs of an upgrade in spiritual power. Seems I worried too much. Leah breathed a sigh of relief, finally at ease. As to why it was hibernation, probably because of the icy environment he created, as only such an environment could let them sleep peacefully. It was at this moment he surprisingly discovered his cultivation had reached the 5th layer of chi refining. All this time, while devouring various spiritual objects and benefiting from their emitted spiritual chi, he directly transcended 1 layer. Just upon arrival he was at the 3rd layer of chi refining. Didn't expect to ascend 2 layers so quickly. Eating and drinking, farming, and nurturing spirit beasts could lead to advancement. There was no better life than this. But only at low tier could it progress so swiftly. It's not feasible to stay stuck at chi refining for years on end even with good sustenance. Holding both the red moon liquid pearl and the sprouts fallen by the flint fire crystal insect, he returned to his room to examine them closely. As he carefully observed, he was astonished to find a small flame burning within the former, while the latter was as hard as iron, cool to the touch, with threads of comfort entering his body. My heavens, a fire seed. Leah was startled. Legend has it, there are various strange flames in the world. Possessing a fire seed allows one to harness these flames. Now in front of him were 5 flint fire seeds. These might merely be weak flint fire of the flint fire crystal insects, yet they were still flint fire? If Leah now took these fire seeds out to sell, presumably he could trade them for several hundred spirit stones. But I don't have a fire seed box. He could only temporarily set these 5 fire seeds aside, planning to go to the Mo Family Mechanism Workshop tomorrow to buy a box specifically for storing fire seeds, without which the loss to the fire seeds would be too great. After carefully preserving these fire seeds and silver sprouts, he suddenly heard a booming noise outside. The clear moonlight that had filled the sky just now vanished, replaced by gloomy clouds locking the heavens. Silver snakes slithered through the dark clouds, their thunderous movements as if shaking away every icy sealed stillness of winter. Ah, is it going to rain? Leah felt rather perplexed. Was there perhaps a magical treasure or divine technique controlling the weather? The spring rain seemed too timely. He had long prepared vats and jars in the yard, planning to collect the spring rain as a gift for the spiritual mechanism vine. After inspecting the situation outside briefly, he sat under the eaves, patiently waiting for the spring rain. He didn't wait long. After several claps of thunder, gentle spring rain began to fall from the sky, different somewhat from what he'd expected, carrying a faint glow. Looking from the roof out into the distance, countless raindrops flickered with a soft purple light, descending from the heavenly dome, joining into a rain curtain, more spectacular than the earlier pill rain and fireworks from the 4 Seasons sect. He instinctively felt something amiss, venturing out in the rain to the basin, only to discover the spring rain lacked the purple light brought by lightning, collecting only ordinary water with slight spiritual chi. No, that with purple light was the spring rain for the spiritual mechanism vine. Why don't I have that kind of rain here? Leah was a bit anxious, glanced around his courtyard, and suddenly noticed near the beaver's dam, or rather, the beaver's nest bound with hungry bone, there was a gentle purple glow. It floated on top of the rainwater, like oil, inside still veiled with strands of lightning glow. Chapter 14, The Alchemist Comes Calling. So spring rain is as precious as oil is actually an adjective. Leah stood in front of the beaver's nest. Their nest was underwater, with a top made of a firm mixture of dead branches, fallen leaves, and mud, and even had ventilation holes around the edges. That pool of spring rain was in a depression at the top of the nest. It was clearly different from regular water, with a distinct boundary from the surrounding rainwater, giving off a viscous feel. It's not wrong to say it's like oil. He reached out intending to use the water control technique to collect the spring rain, but just as he did so, a stream of black resentment chi surged from the ground, blocking his way. This was obviously the aura exuded by that spirit plant named Hungry Bone, possessing a very domineering sense of ownership, and Leah instantly understood that this spring rain was clearly seized by its power. Why was Hungry Bone able to gather real spring rain? He was somewhat puzzled, but then a little head suddenly peeked out from below the water surface of the nest. This little creature was still a bit sleepy-eyed, came to the front of the spring rain, and the black mist instantly dispersed. The beaver buried its head, took 2 sips, and then chirped at Leah boldly. Then the black mist vanished immediately. Very obedient indeed. Leah patted the beaver's head and then used a jade bowl to collect the small pool of spring rain. After he finished, it was evident that there were some unusual fluctuations of spiritual chi here, gathering the spring rain over. He noted this and decided to subtly inquire about the spiritual mechanism vine the next day when he goes out to find out the cause. For now, he still had things to busy himself with. On the day of the beginning of spring, the spring wheat must be quickly planted, all in one day. If it's past the beginning of spring, it can no longer be called spring wheat. Earlier, he had roughly counted about 1,000 seeds. Now they had to be planted one by one, and he had to pay attention to their very delicate consciousness's pickiness about the environment, which was not an easy task. He busily worked in the courtyard wearing a raincoat. It wasn't until daybreak that he finally finished planting all of them. During watering, he specifically mixed a bit of spring rain into the spiritual spring water, and after doing so, he returned to his house, planning to make breakfast, when suddenly there was a knock at the door. Who could it be? He was a bit curious, as he was always living alone, and didn't expect anyone to visit. Could it be someone collecting rent? But it wasn't time yet. The knocking outside was not hurried, even rhythmic to some extent. He decided to walk over and open the door. Outside stood a young male cultivator in white clothes, spotless despite the drizzling rain. Seeing Leah open the door, he immediately stated his purpose. Taoist friendly, I am a cultivator stationed at the Huya marketplace by the Four Seasons sect, and here is my token. The male cultivator took out a token engraved with the Four Seasons sundial. Then he clarified his intention. Taoist friend, do you still have any moon liquid pearls? If you do, I'm willing to buy them for 100 spirit stones each, or if you need, we can exchange them for pills. His tone was clearly very urgent, and his eyes showed a hint of desperation as he looked at Leah. There were noticeable bloodshot eyes, and his lips were dry, clearly a sign of having stayed up all night. 100 per piece? Are you insane, or are you some young master from somewhere, when the spiritual mechanism vine over there only gave 31 per piece? Leah blinked in surprise. Taoist friend, how did you know I had moon liquid pearls? It was Uncle Master Ling Ji Vine from the marketplace shop who told me. Taoist friendly, I won't hide it from you. The moon liquid pearl is the main material for refining a certain pill, and I have also been assigned this task. The quality of the moon liquid pearls submitted by others varies, but yours, Taoist friend, is of the highest grade. If you can help me exceed this sect task quota, whenever I am stationed at the marketplace in the future, if you wish to purchase any pills, feel free to come to me. How could he refuse such a connection handed to him on a silver platter? An alchemist, no less. Leah thought for a moment, I have 20 pieces here. The other party didn't hesitate, taking out a storage pouch and handing it over. Count these. The convenience of the storage pouch meant that with a sweep of the divine sense, the contents could be seen clearly, and indeed it was 2,000 spirit stones, not one less. This made Leah quite emotional, as he had just entered chi refining, having previously received 2,000 from the spiritual mechanism vine, and now another 2,000, totaling 4,000 spirit stones. This alchemist was truly generous, even doubling that of what the spiritual mechanism vine had offered. In stories about cultivation, obtaining spirit stones was always difficult. Gathering enough for a foundation establishment pill required endless effort. Since the other party was so generous, Leah didn't hesitate to hand over the box containing 20 moon liquid pearls to him, leaving himself only 10. The young male cultivator opened the box to take a look. His face immediately revealed an uncontrollable expression of joy. This is it. It seems my pills can finally be completed. He took a deep breath, closed the box, and smiled at Leah. I am Suya. If Taoist friendly needs anything in the future, just mention my name at the Four Seasons sect storefront. I am in a hurry to go back for alchemy, so I'll leave first. With that, he actually took out a small flying boat magical artifact from a ring on his hand, and he disappeared in an instant, riding the flying boat. He is actually a cultivator at the foundation establishment stage. Leah was still a bit shocked. Flying is prohibited in the marketplace, there is a no-fly order, and violators must pay heavy fines. What kind of temptation could make him act this way? It seems the price of the moon liquid pearls he has cultivated is indeed difficult to measure. However, speaking of the spiritual mechanism vine, he plans to go and see it with the spring rain in a couple of days. Since he promised, he must fulfill it. Riding the flying boat, Suya broke through the forbidden technique and quickly returned to the Four Seasons sect storefront. Today is the beginning of spring, even the Four Seasons sect storefront is closed. After all, the Four Seasons sect is conducting a beginning of spring ritual internally, and achieving something there is more rewarding than a full year's harvest. Kidsu. The spiritual mechanism vine slowly straightened up behind the counter. You just went to see Kidley? How many spirit stones did you use? 2,000. Upon hearing this, the spiritual mechanism vine couldn't help but laugh. You didn't request the batch of moon liquid pearls when they were delivered to the sect, and now you're buying them at a high price, truly reaping what you sow. It's double the price compared to what we sold you within the sect. Does that feel good? Sighing in resignation, Suya cupped his hands in a plea for mercy. Uncle Master, please spare me. He quickly changed the subject. But that Taoist friendly emits a soothing aura. Is he planning to join our Four Seasons sect in the future? The spiritual mechanism vine replied unhurriedly. If he is interested in joining, why wouldn't we take him? I have high hopes for this kid. If he handles this year's 2 seasonal tasks well, I will recommend him to join during the autumn harvest. That would be a good thing. Having a junior brother capable of cultivating moon liquid pearls eases the burden on me and the other senior brothers. The sect's demand for moon liquid pearls is increasing. Perhaps that senior. His speculative remark was abruptly cut off as numerous vines silently appeared around him, tying him up tightly, and stuffing an unknown spirit fruit into his mouth. He didn't even have time to plead for mercy before being sent into the pill refining room. Before he genuinely produced pills, he probably wouldn't be able to come out. Chapter 15, Golden Red Dragon Carp, Gathering Invitation. A few days later, the gentle spring rain finally came to a complete stop. The sunlight of spring pierced through the clouds, shining upon the earth, noticeably warming the body. The wheat seeds in the courtyard had grown lush and green within these few days. A fresh green scene, looking exceptionally pleasing to the eye. Among them, more than 30 stalks had grown exceedingly tall, with a cold hint of blue amidst the green. Beside them were the rather sluggish cold ice wheat. Cold ice wheat, well, as the name suggests, prefers icy environments and must absorb enough ice attribute spiritual chi to grow. Clearly, the current environment is not suitable for them. But perhaps it's because of their bond with the spring wheat. Although it grew unenergetically in the slightly warm spring breeze, it continued to grow, just no longer producing wheat. But it doesn't matter. As long as it's alive, it's good. At least the bond is still effective. Leah strolled around the courtyard and came to the beaver's nest, where they had already constructed a dam around the entire spring. The water would be diverted through the outlets they deliberately left open. They were smart enough to understand Leah's instructions and would check if the wheat needed water, releasing water at the appropriate times. This spared a lot of trouble. Leah picked up the peanuts he bought and tossed them one by one to the beavers, watching them raise their paws in thanks before each took a peanut back to their nest to enjoy slowly. It's time to plant some water spirit plants. Something edible. With 1 acre in the courtyard occupied by wheat, Leah planned to buy some spirit plants to plant in the remaining acre, resolving some miscellaneous tasks, and bringing the spring rain to the spiritual mechanism vine. And so he left after tidying up his things. The marketplace was particularly bustling. During spring, everything revives, many spirit plants can be planted, spirit beasts become more numerous, and it even starts becoming noisy. Leah wandered around, quickly attracted by a large jar in front of a cultivator. Inside it were golden red carp, looking exceptionally festive, with small bumps on their heads, as if hiding horns beneath. Name, Golden Red Dragon Carp. Mood, stifled. Status, eager to jump. Can be bound, any moderately sized water spirit plant, provided it can offer a jumping platform and is sufficiently sturdy. Taoist friend, are you interested in my golden red dragon carp? The stall owner was a middle-aged cultivator. He laughed. These golden red dragon carp shed a scale every 7 days, which can be eaten directly after being fried, tasting excellent. The name does sound grand. I just don't know the benefits of eating these scales. Leah examined the carp swimming around. As they say, the carp are indeed beautiful in golden red. If the benefits are enough, he might actually buy some to raise in his spring water. Seeing Leah interested in purchasing, the middle-aged cultivator quickly said, "These scales are of great significance. It is said that this fish once swam with the dragon clan in a vast lake, fortunate enough to have eaten dragon scales. Consistent consumption of these fish scales not only enhances beauty and retains youth but also increases physical strength. Indeed, the benefits are plentiful." Leah was aware that there must be some exaggeration in this, but firstly, these fish are indeed beautiful, and secondly, they can be bound, fitting his need to purchase some water spirit plants, so it's a win-win. Thus after brief hesitation, he decided to buy. Just then, a slightly delighted voice suddenly came from the side. "Hey, aren't you Taoist friendly? Turning to look, it was Cultivator Joe, who had been selling spiritual grain the other day, now full of smiles as if having good news. Cultivator Joe walked quickly over, glanced curiously, and was surprised. "Third uncle, what are you doing here? You're actually daring enough to catch these golden red dragon carp." Obviously, he knew the fish seller well. The middle-aged cultivator helplessly replied, "Nephew, these fish were raised by me, so of course, I can sell them. But is this Taoist friend your friend?" "Yes, not only a friend, but he has also helped your nephew. Give Taoist friendly a discount on these golden red dragon carp." "You little rascal, always taking sides." The middle-aged cultivator jokingly scolded. "These golden red dragon carp should have been priced at 100 spirit stones each, but I'll lower it, 80 spirit stones each." The uncle-nephew conversation had Leah feeling somewhat dazed. The scene seemed almost like a trap, yet these golden red dragon carp were indeed second-tier spirit beasts with special effects. 80 spirit stones each is not expensive. Perhaps sensing his skeptical gaze, Cultivator Joe hastily explained. "These golden red dragon carp are unique spirit beasts from my third uncle's family, sourced from Huia, an ancient cultivator's grotto heaven-blessed land. Taoist friend can inquire freely, I absolutely have no intention of deceiving you, besides I came today seeking Taoist friend specifically, bringing some gifts." He took out a package weighing about 10 pounds and a small box from his storage pouch, leaned closer, and whispered, "Thanks to Taoist friend, the batch of spring thunder wheat indeed produced wheat pills. Here are 10 pounds of refined flour and 20 wheat pills, Taoist friend must accept them." After saying this, he resumed his normal tone, sincerely saying, "Without Taoist friend's advice that day, this one would likely have sold that batch of wheat long ago, missing out on such a good harvest. This one is truly grateful." He even bowed slightly. Leah quickly dodged. That wheat was cultivated by Taoist friend, the harvest is rightful, and this one merely spoke casually. "Hey." Cultivator Joe waved his hand. "Don't say that, sometimes things just need a hint. Taoist friend's guidance is indeed a favor. Speaking of which, does Taoist friend have time in 3 days? We spirit plant cultivators are organizing a gathering at the Peach Garden in Huia Marketplace, and it would be great to get acquainted." This was good news. The cultivator's circle is sometimes so hard to enter. Without guidance, it's impossible to get in, and Leah wasn't training to be some solitary immortal, destined to interact with other cultivators. So he agreed promptly. With Taoist friend Joe's invitation, this one will surely find time, even if it's busy, to attend in 3 days. Cultivator Joe was quite pleased. His family was somewhat influential here and naturally knew who had taken on the tasks from the Four Seasons sect. His grandmother speculated that this cultivator named Leah might highly likely enter the Four Seasons sect. If not forging a good relationship at this moment, it would truly be a waste. Moreover, he personally felt Taoist friendly was quite special and wanted to befriend him. Leah accepted his goodwill reluctantly, ultimately purchasing 5 golden red dragon carp, planning to raise them first and see. Chapter 16, Autumn Harvest Token. Just giving a few casual pointers warrants a gift. After bidding farewell to Taoist friend Joe, Leah thought that this was quite absurd. At the time, he was simply acting out of goodwill, saying just a couple of words, and didn't expect the other party would actually give a return gift. 10 pounds of flour and a box of wheat pills. This was indeed not a lousy gift. From this alone, this Taoist friend Joe seems like someone worth associating with. In 3 days, I should make sure to meet him as promised. Leah pondered as he kept walking. Unfortunately, he didn't see any suitable water spirit plants along the way. Soon he would have to look for the spiritual mechanism vine. Maybe there he might find something suitable to buy. About the time it takes to drink half a cup of tea later, he arrived at a rather peculiar iron structure tower. This tower stood at a corner of the market. Although the windows had decorative engravings, it felt exceptionally orderly. Square and straight, as if crafted by someone with an obsession for perfection. He scrutinized it for a moment, then stepped into the pavilion. As soon as he stepped in, the floor beneath him slightly quivered, causing a downward sensation, and after a few breaths, he found himself in a very simply decorated room. Behind the counter sat a young female cultivator with a delicate appearance. She looked at Leah and smiled slightly, gesturing with her hand. "Please sit, Daoist friend. It's your first time at our Mo family mechanism workshop, right?" For the privacy of each Daoist friend, every visitor is transported to a separate room by the mechanism. "I am Mo Dinglio, pleased to meet you." Leah was a little surprised inwardly. He had to admit that this innovation by the Mo family was quite clever, aligning well with the desires for privacy held by most cultivators. He smiled too and sat down. "I came this time to buy a fire seed box that can hold 5 fire seeds. 5 fire seeds, is it?" Mo Dinglio nodded and quickly took out a box made of purple sandalwood, placing it in front of Leah and opening it. "This is the best-selling fire seed box from our Mo family mechanism workshop. It can hold 5 fire seeds inside. When needed, it can provide fuel for the fire seeds through the mechanism at any time, making it extremely stable for both artifact refining and alchemy." The box, about a foot long, contained 5 grooves inside. Strange flame runes were drawn around the pockets. It oddly had a feeling of a gas stove. It really was somewhat similar. Seeing Leah silent, Mo Dinglio was aware that some cultivators didn't like showing their treasures to others, so she took out a fire seed prepared in advance for demonstration. "Daoist friend, please take a look." She placed the fire seed into one of the grooves, where it was enveloped in a gel-like pink liquid and slowly sank to the bottom. Then she pressed a button under the groove. With a whoosh sound, a stable flame flared up inside the groove. Even with the box closed, the flame emerged from the holes on the box surface, and the size of the flame could be adjusted, looking more and more like a gas stove. How much spirit stone does this cost? Leah decided to purchase it. 200 spirit stones. If it has any damage or issues, feel free to bring it to our Mo Family Mechanism Workshop for repairs. Rest assured, our products are definitely premium. The price was, frankly, a bit steep. Usually, a first-tier spiritual artifact only costs a few dozen spirit stones, while second-tier ones might sell for more than 200 spirit stones. But this item was hard to categorize. After all, it was a common magical artifact. Those who needed it, truly needed it. Here are 200 spirit stones. Leah took out 200 spirit stones from his storage pouch and handed them over. Mo Dinglio collected all the spirit stones, swiftly replaced the box, and handed over a token. This is proof for repairs. You must keep it safe. You need to present this certificate for us to acknowledge and carry out repairs at our Mo Family Mechanism Workshop. After carefully explaining this, she inquired again, do you have any other needs, deist friend? Do you have any smaller viewing mirrors? The so-called viewing mirror was what Leah previously bought to observe the flint fire crystal insect and silver moon grass. He wanted to purchase more to observe the beaver and that peculiar hungry bone spirit plant. Certainly, we do. Mo Dinglio brought out viewing mirrors in different sizes, the smallest being only the size of a grain of rice. It was unclear what such a size would be used for. Could it be the Cultivation Realm's version of a pinhole camera? Of course, he didn't buy one that small. He bought 3 that were the size of a baby's palm, spending a few dozen spirit stones. Then, under Mo Dinglio's courteous send-off, he left the Mo Family Mechanism Workshop, walking directly toward the Four Seasons sex shop. Upon seeing the spiritual mechanism vine, he directly took out a jar containing the spring rain. Inside was a gooey rainwater with a tinge of purple and an orbiting halo. This is what I promised as a junior. Spring rain. Senior, please check if it is satisfactory. The spiritual mechanism vine was evidently surprised and delighted at Leah's ability to actually bring the spring rain, its demeanor shifting from calm to amazed and pleased, the voice carrying satisfaction. You kid, you really did well. It stretched out a vine, slowly immersing it into the jar. The vine twitched, seemingly about to sigh in comfort. As the rainwater visibly decreased, small electric arcs sizzled on its vine, the surface cracked open and then regenerated. In just a short while, its aura seemed significantly strengthened. Comfortable. The spiritual mechanism vine said with satisfaction, earlier, when I mentioned it, I hadn't expected you to really find purple oil spring rain. I don't know how you managed it, but the spring rain is an extraordinary elixir for spiritual plants with spirituality like us. If you have any spirit plants you wish to meticulously cultivate, you can use this to water them, but the quantity must be limited, 1 tail at a time is enough. While saying this, it took out a box from underneath the counter and placed it on the table. Since you've given me such a fine item, I shall give you something in return, open it and see. Then I shall gratefully accept as a junior. Leah opened the box. Inside, lying quietly on satin, was a token with the words Autumn Harvest written on it, devoid of any additional patterns or inscriptions. But Leah felt a stir in his heart, looking at the spiritual mechanism vine with surprise. The latter nodded gently, this is our 4 Seasons sex entrance assessment token for the autumn harvest. If you can complete 3 seasonal tasks at that time, gaining entry will be a sure thing. Wait up, youngster, how coincidental, as it happens, there's an alchemist here today, let him examine your wounds. Though not equivalent to a true in-house physician, an alchemist has some skill. As these words fell, a male cultivator in flowing white attire stepped through the door. At this moment, Suya was already free from his previous bloodshot eyes and dry lips, neatly groomed, standing anywhere represented the quintessential immortal aura. Chapter 17, Spirit Uniting Lotus, Spirit Water Phoenix Eye Lotus. Taoist friendly, soon I'll have to call you junior brotherly. Suya showed a genuine smile on his face, the moon liquid pearls you provided me with were of truly excellent quality, and my pills received commendation from the sex elders after I submitted them. Leah quickly stood up and waved his hand, that's all thanks to Senior Su's alchemy skills. Suya shook his head, calling me senior is a bit dull. When I first met you, I didn't claim to be a foundation establishment cultivator, yet you keep calling me senior. That was my mistake. Leah scratched his head and smoothly corrected himself. Senior brother Su, recently I damaged my meridians out of urgency and stress. Although it's much better now, it still occasionally aches faintly. He described his current symptoms briefly. Honestly, during this period of recuperating well and eating properly, he didn't feel particularly uncomfortable. He just couldn't find a method for treatment. If it could be healed, it would certainly be a good thing. Is that so? Suya, however, did not suggest anything like a pulse diagnosis. If it wasn't a genuinely urgent situation or for someone very close, cultivators wouldn't usually reveal their conditions to outsiders. He only needed to know what illness Leah had, and that was enough. Meridian damage is a common ailment among cultivators, but completely curing it is quite a challenge. Fortunately, Taoist Friendly's cultivation is still shallow. I can provide Taoist Friendly with 2 prescriptions. One is to wait until you join our 4 Seasons sect and purchase a replenishing vein pill from the pill refining room. This pill has an excellent effect on meridian damage, and just one can restore them to their original state without affecting future cultivation. A replenishing vein pill costs about 2,000 spirit stones within the sect, but if sold outside, it might cost nearly 10,000 spirit stones. The other is to practice some meridian nourishing magic. By the time you advance to foundation establishment, you might be able to directly heal the injury with your spiritual power, though there are some unknown factors in this. These are called 2 prescriptions, but it's obvious they recommend joining the 4 Seasons sect to buy that replenishing vein pill, which Leah was already prepared for. Moreover, what he has seen so far about the 4 Seasons sect is indeed impressive, not to mention they've already given him a recommendation token to join. Of course, the most important thing is he feels that if he continues to nourish himself with vitality, he should be able to heal slowly without any impact on his cultivation so far. If there was indeed an impact, he would certainly need to quickly earn enough spirit stones to buy one first. He cupped his hands. Then I must work hard in my cultivation so that I can successfully enter the 4 Seasons sect by autumn harvest. Suya instantly beamed with joy. I'll first prescribe you some soothing pills to ensure the condition doesn't worsen. Once you join the sect, I'll take you to buy the pill from the pill refining room. Those remarkably high-quality moon liquid pearls had already left a lasting impression on him about Leah. Fortunately, he didn't compete with his fellow disciples back then, otherwise, where would he have the opportunity to make a connection outside the sect? Though he spent 2,000 spirit stones, the rare experience gained during alchemy and the rewards from the sect were far more important than spirit stones. Once he joins the sect, being closer, he will have a guaranteed supply of moon liquid pearls every year. Watching Suya's uncontrollable joyous expression, Leah felt a bit curious. Taoist friend Su, are spirit plant masters really scarce in your sect? In such a large sect, it's unlikely that they'd have to rely on external loose cultivators to supply materials, which would be quite strange. Not at all, but there are too many alchemists. Mentioning this matter, Suya felt a bit speechless. You know, my 4 Seasons sect is an overlord-level sect in the eastern domain, with countless spirit plant masters and beast tamers, and an abundance of resources has produced too many alchemists. While there are plenty of materials, good ones are scarce. Moreover, most spirit plant masters have fixed collaborations with specific alchemists, leading to us newly admitted alchemists having nothing good to practice with. So, the sect releases some tasks in various marketplaces, partly to scout for talents like Taoist friendly, and partly to provide us low-tier alchemists and artifact refiners materials for practice. He was slightly resentful. This was indeed something Leah hadn't expected. From what he originally thought, being an alchemist should be one of the most prestigious professions. Yet, he didn't expect it to be the other way around in the 4 Seasons sect, requiring alchemists to request raw materials for alchemy. That's because your alchemy skills are not sufficient. Spiritual Mechanism Vine bluntly interjected, if you had skills like those of my master, no spirit plant master would refuse your request for spiritual materials. Suya immediately nodded repeatedly. Uncle's teaching is right. Apologizing repeatedly, he winked at Leah. Leah blinked his eyes. Senior Spiritual Mechanism Vine, I also came this time to purchase some items. This awkward attempt to change the subject was something Spiritual Mechanism Vine couldn't ignore. But it only wanted to throw a few jibes and then gladly let Suya prepare the pills upon hearing Leah speak. Meanwhile, its attitude was more casual. What do you want to buy? Water spirit plant. I just bought a few golden red dragon carps at the market and purchased some Huichuan beavers recently. I need to prepare some food for them. Spiritual Mechanism Vine looked surprised. Oh, so you managed to acquire Huichuan beavers. That brood was bred by my master's junior sister. If it weren't for a sect task, they wouldn't have been released. They are incredibly clever. Sect task? Leah asked curiously. Our 4 Seasons sect occasionally releases high-quality and affordable spirit plants or spirit beasts. This is a benefit only available at marketplaces under the 4 Seasons sect. In other places, who would sell such good items cheaply to you all? It muttered as it took out 2 spirit plants and placed them on the counter. The first was a poised lotus flower, while the second was a phoenix eye lotus, colloquially called a water gourd. You should be aware of the benefits of the lotus. Whether it's its leaves, root, petals, or seeds, all are useful. This lotus was cultivated by a senior within the sect and is called a spirit-uniting lotus. While it doesn't have any particularly special attributes, it's rare for its entire form, from flower to root, to be filled with spiritual energy. It's perfect for feeding fish and beavers or even for your own consumption. After explaining the lotus, it pointed to the water gourd. This one's a bit more interesting. Its shell is incredibly sturdy and, once picked, won't spoil for 100 years, and it gathers a mouthful of water spirit essence inside. Water nourishes all things, and water spirit essence is naturally beneficial for you too. The only slight issue is that the spirit water phoenix eye lotus purifies the spiritual chi in water. If your spring's spiritual chi is ever insufficient, come find me to upgrade to a second-tier spiritual spring. Evidently, these were carefully selected. Leah naturally had no reason to refuse or doubt. Besides, he saw clearly just now that the spirit water phoenix eye lotus could be bound. It required any spirit beast capable of persistently striking the gourd. Isn't this just perfect to bind with his golden red dragon carp? However, When did his luck get so good that everything he needed was within reach and he even got unexpected surprises? It truly was strange. Chapter 18, Spirit Gathering Technique Mutation, Hungry Bone Transformation. Finally, Leah spent 1,000 spirit stones to buy 20 plants each, and then spent 300 spirit stones to get some medicines to stabilize injuries from Soya. This money came fast and went away just as quickly. But as long as you can earn it, you can spend it. At least these spirit stones were not wasted, but turned into sustainable assets for himself, capable of continuous appreciation. He returned home quickly with a full load of gains. Then, he first released the golden red dragon carp that had been in the storage pouch for a while and directly threw it into a water reservoir that had been prepared in advance, which had been dug out these past few days. It's about 2 cubic meters. It's more than enough to raise a few fish. The dams dug by the beavers will continuously supply fresh water, and the other side of the dam can also control the water outflow. This way, it retains the characteristic of flowing water and there's no need to worry about it becoming a breeding ground for mosquitoes in the summer and autumn. The carp splashed water upon entry, its golden red scales reflecting brilliant light under the sun. Just its appearance alone is enough to be worthy of the term carp. Watching them swim freely in the water is comforting. The only ones slightly unwelcome and shivering were the beavers looking around from the dam's edge. Their size was just too small. If they accidentally fell into the pool, they would definitely be eaten by the golden red dragon carp. Leah looked at them and decided to try to persuade the golden red dragon carp after binding, as they should possess some intelligence as spirit beasts. He took out the spirit water phoenix eye lotus and began planting. After planting was finished, he proceeded to bind them straight away. Consumed 100 points of vital essence. When binding the Weichuan beaver and hungry bone before, it also seemed to be 100. Could it be judged by the highest level? The spirit water phoenix eye lotus is first tier, while the golden red dragon carp is second tier. Does second tier require 100? First tier 20? He pondered this while thoroughly binding the golden red dragon carp with the 5 strongest spirit water phoenix eye lotuses he planted. Upon binding completion, the carp swam towards the spirit water phoenix eye lotus and began to ram its gourd with its head. Even though these spirit water phoenix eye lotuses were merely seedlings, their natural hardiness made their gourds exceptionally tough. The carp quickly dislodged scales from its forehead, and crimson blood swirled in the water. Leah was slightly surprised. But the consciousness waves transmitted from both the golden red dragon carp and the phoenix eye lotus were extremely joyful, leaving him a bit baffled. Could it be these two are masochists? He didn't quite understand. You must not eat those little fellows beside you? Remember that. Whether or not the golden red dragon carp understood is uncertain, but it continually used its head to ram the water gourd, scattering scales, bursting its head open, and even fainting while still wanting to continue ramming. All right then, it seems these creatures have become addicted to ramming. But just as he was about to leave, the spirit water phoenix eye lotus suddenly released a burst of spiritual chi, accompanied by a fishy scent, which fell around Leah. The 5 elements spirit ascension technique automatically operated. Such pure spiritual chi. This spiritual chi was purer than that he had absorbed from silver moon grass and flint fire crystal insects before, though slightly more than from spiritual grain. There was a peculiar bloody fish scent. If the strength of these spirit plants enhances the magic closely related to themselves, then the strength of the spirit water phoenix eye lotus is to purify water quality and condense water spirit essence. So, he thought of the magic he knew now, extending his finger and lightly waved it. Spirit gathering technique. A faint, almost invisible glow flickered at his fingertip. Immediately, the surrounding water spiritual chi spontaneously converged towards him, even condensing into a small water ball, gently floating at his fingertip. It really is. He felt surprised instantly. Earlier, he had also cast this spirit gathering technique. But back then, it merely allowed him to draw limited spiritual chi from his surroundings, requiring constant operation of his internal spiritual power, nowhere near as effortless as now. Moreover, he was now able to gather water spiritual chi into clusters. Doesn't that mean he can collect water spirit essence himself? It's known that water spirit essence is good stuff, better than ordinary spiritual spring water for irrigating spirit plants and feeding spirit beasts, accelerating growth. If combined with magic like the cloud rain technique, it would result in a rain rich with spiritual power? Not bad indeed. Leah nodded contentedly, took out the lotus and started planting it in the nearby almost stagnant stream. The crystal clear lotus flowers, each a deep blue violet, swayed with the wind. By the time Leah finished planting until he was covered in sweat, they were already swaying with the wind, attracting the keen-eyed Weichuan beavers. The beavers appeared to have a good sense for sustainable development, nibbling on the lotus leaves and gnawing on the lotus roots. Initially, they were only palm-sized, and these 20 plants were enough for them to eat, let alone their occasional mischief of stealing fallen wheat spikes and leaves. Speaking of which, Leah suddenly remembered the viewing mirror he had bought. He went over to the beaver's nest, hesitated for a moment, and then unapologetically dug with his hand. The little beaver that had bound itself with hungry bones' eyes were popping. Chirp chirp chirp. It called out anxiously a few times, then proactively picked up the viewing mirror, jumped into the water, and swam into its nest, hanging the viewing mirror directly on the wall of the nest. How smart. Leah marveled once again at this little creature's wit, then he took out the matching viewing mirror and looked at it. It has to be said that this mirror truly is magical, even with the beaver's nest completely dark, you could clearly see inside. The floor was covered with soft dry grass and wheat leaves, and the fallen wheat spikes and the gathered food were all piled nicely around the hungry bone plant. The ivory bones were already buried. Only the mysterious purple-red flower remained vibrant. But it somehow lacked the previously aggressive resentment chi, even looking somewhat honest and pitiable because it was piled with a heap of miscellaneous items. Underneath those miscellaneous items, a faint golden glow could be seen. It was the soul light in the pitch-black nest. What's that? Leah pointed at the golden glow beneath the hungry bone in the mirror. Go and fetch it, I'll give you a little bottle. The beaver nodded obediently, then took the small jade bottle Leah had given, went into the nest, filled the bottle with the liquid underneath the hungry bone, and scampered out, offering it to Leah like a treasure. He took the jade bottle, brought it up to his eyes, and took a look. An obvious flash of surprise crossed his eyes. Chapter 19, Peach Garden Gathering, Jade Reward from the Mountain God. Gold. It's clear that what's inside the bottle is flowing gold. It emits an extremely fragrant aroma, merely smelling it makes Leah feel refreshed, and its color is indeed pleasing to the eye, truly somewhat peculiar. What is this? Is this the harvest that the spiritual mechanism vine spoke of? Leah quietly corked the bottle, carefully placing it in the corner of his cabinet, right next to the sprout dropped by the flint fire crystal insect. He planned to gather more and, while chatting with people, tactfully inquire about what exactly this item might be. But he didn't notice that when he closed the bottle, a trace of golden light silently merged into his body. Time flies by in an instant. 3 days later, Leah left home on time and went to the peach garden mentioned by Taoist friend Joe. The so-called peach garden is on the east side of the marketplace of Huia, and Leah easily found the bright peach garden just by casually asking a few passers-by. Though it was just the beginning of spring, and there's still a chill in the air, the endless peach blossoms were already extremely vibrant, each peach tree extraordinarily tall with gnarled branches, clearly having lived for a long time. Pink petals flew like sunlight, and as they fluttered, floral scent and spiritual energy surged together. Merely standing there, the spiritual energy directly drilled into the body. Name, Spring Pink Peach. State, releasing accumulated spiritual energy to bloom. Mood, joyful. Taoist friendly. Just as Leah was absorbed by this scenery, Taoist friend Joe, wearing a grey Taoist robe, hurried over. It's really you. I just heard from the forest keeper that someone came, so I hurried to greet you. Quick, Senior Su and several other seniors have booked this place today. The spiritual energy accumulated over the winter is being released as these peach blossoms bloom, and soon we will compete to see who absorbs the most spiritual energy. He enthusiastically led Leah through the small path embraced by peach trees to a small lake, stepping on the stone stairs built in the lake, arriving at the small island in the heart of the lake. At this time, there were already more than a dozen cultivators seated here. Among them, surrounded by the cultivators, was a white-robed figure, the Four Seasons Sex Suya, Pill Master Su. Oh, it's really you. Upon seeing Leah, Suya immediately smiled and, without further ado, squeezed past the surrounding cultivators to grab Leah's sleeve and introduce, "This is my friend, Leah." With such an introduction from the respected alchemist of Four Seasons sect, for a moment they couldn't discern the background of this cultivator, who merely looked a bit more handsome, and thus nodded in agreement. Taoist friendly. Taoist friendly appears unfamiliar. Has the Taoist friend ever attended gatherings here usually? Evidently, these cultivators were all astute, smiling with enthusiasm and speaking in a manner that was perfectly measured, the atmosphere becoming considerably harmonious and congenial. Leah naturally returned their greetings one by one. After these mutual exchanges were over, Leah sat beside Taoist friend Joe, feeling his face stiff from smiling. A female cultivator proposed, "Since Taoist friendly is new and hasn't met us before, how about letting him start summoning spirits? I am willing to accompany with music." This female cultivator sat beside Suya, and she was a foundation establishment cultivator. Summoning spirit? Just as curiosity arose in Leah's heart, Suya smiled and said, "Naturally, that's great. Taoist friendly, this peach forest in the peach garden comes from our Four Seasons Sex Peach Blossom Mountain. It was the mountain god who personally broke off the branches. They have accumulated spiritual energy over a whole winter, and with the blooming in spring, the accumulated energy is released. This first wave of energy can summon the mountain god's blessing from Peach Blossom Mountain. If it weren't for the slight strength of myself, Taoist friend Zhang, and Taoist friend Xiao, it would still be a bit troublesome to be the first to seize this peach garden for discussion, flower viewing, and summoning spirits." Ah. The female cultivator surnamed Zhang quickly waved her hand. "It's mainly thanks to Brother Su's effort. Let's not say more. Taoist friendly, are you willing to summon spirits?" Having heard about Leah's matters long ago, she knew that this young cultivator was definitely going to join Four Seasons sect. Plus Suya valued him so much, she didn't mind extending a kindness. Leah pondered for a moment and stood up. "With the kind favor of the seniors, I am naturally willing, though I don't know how the summoning spirit is conducted." The female cultivator didn't speak. She only took out a bamboo flute brimming with spiritual light and gently blew on it. The melodious flute sound flowed out like water, seemingly resonating with the surrounding peach blossom spiritual energy. Petals of pink surrounded Leah and danced. In a trance, Leah seemed to see a gigantic peach tree standing atop a mountain. Whenever it blooms, it rains flowers that extend for thousands of miles. A lofty consciousness glanced at Leah from afar. Then a voice as gentle as water echoed, "An interesting child. On your body, there's much love from little creatures. Oh, and their gratitude for being freed from endless suffering. It's good that you learned that cultivation technique. Go, break off a branch of peach blossoms that you find most pleasing, that will be your reward for summoning spirits. As this voice disappeared, Leah instantly awakened. Oh, Taoist friend has received a response so quickly. The female cultivator surnamed Zhang was quite surprised. Summoning spirits doesn't always ensure success, it depends on whether the mountain god is willing to respond. Ordinarily, she would turn a blind eye, but unexpectedly, this chi refining cultivator received a response so swiftly from the mountain god, it seems he indeed has something special. Leah seemed a bit dazed. He nodded. The mountain god let me. Just go and do it. Suya sat up straight, looking at Leah with eyes as if beholding a rare treasure. Okay. Leah also found it peculiar. He walked over to the peach forest aside, feeling that these evidently vibrant peach trees lacked color, except for one branch, which shone brightly in his eyes. He naturally broke it off without hesitation. With a crunching sound, that detached flower branch instantly began to jadify from the fracture. The few peach blossoms atop also followed suit, quietly staying in his hand. Name, Peach Jade Flower Branch. State, Mountain God Peach Blossom Blessing. Mood, joyful. Can bind any spirit beast with wood attribute that can bloom. The spiritual energy from the jade-colored peach branch flowed swiftly into his body, rapidly transforming into his cultivation, instantly elevating him from the 5th layer of chi refining to the 6th layer. This is so terrifying. He murmured a bit while holding the flower branch and returned to the island in the center of the lake. The cultivators were waiting for his return.